You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton on what is normally a football Friday, but no way today. No way. I don't care how much football news we have. I don't care that Pat Kirwan's coming on the show.
Tell you this much, Pat Kirwan's bracket's better than yours, even if he didn't fill one out.
And you know what? When it's so good, you don't even care.
Damn right.
You don't even care. That's when you know it's a great tournament day. My bracket's toast. Who cares? Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Hope you've had a good week. And no matter how your bracket looks this morning, hope you're in good spirits heading into the weekend. Let's get through this Friday together, shall we?
Absolutely. What a great day. How many different ways could we have been wrong yesterday, David?
Yep.
I mean, when the game started and I'm 1-3 after 4 games, I'm going, well, this should be interesting.
And it was starting off so slowly in that the first half dozen games, the favorites are not just winning, they're covering. So the games are not necessarily close. And then late afternoon, things get going because Iowa pulled in Iowa in the. I would just like to say something out loud. And I did say this yesterday. I was giving Fran McCaffrey in Iowa one more chance yesterday. That was it. I have bailed on Rick Barnes. All right. And I know this might be the best team he's taken to a tournament in a while. And if Tennessee goes on a deep run, I will be very happy for him and for the Vols and Vol Nation and all that. But I am off Rick Barnes in the tournament after 15 years of disappointment. I gave Fran McCaffrey in Iowa one more chance.
And you said so. You said so yesterday.
Said, this is it.
This is your last opportunity.
Right.
I have a lot of scorn towards you.
Yes.
But you play defense this year. And because of that, because of your defense, then, well, let's see. I'll bet on your offense. The defense played okay.
Listen, if you had said to Fran McCaffrey in Iowa, you're going to hold your opponents to what, 67? They would have laughed and said, wow, we're going to be in this tournament a while. Yeah, not so much. Not so much. And that's set. That was the primer, Mark. That was the primer heading into the evening.
It really was. And, you know, you're right. The early teams won and covered, but you got to remember the day starts out. At least it gave us hope. Colorado State jumps out to a big lead, blows it. South Dakota State played well in the first half before getting just a little bit run out of the gym. Now, you know, the Longwoods of the world and Norfolk State, the 116. But the first 2 games, Jackrabbits are moving a little bit. Colorado State's moving a little bit. At least got us to halftime with some oomph. But boy, oh boy, did it get going in the afternoon, because even though Gonzaga whooped up on Georgia State, that wasn't until the last 10 minutes of the game.
Right.
I mean, they're going to the second media timeout, and that's a 1-score game.
Yeah, you're looking at one another going, this is a 116. That's a 1-possession game with 12 minutes to go. This is unbelievable. We don't get this very often. But the night delivered. Boy, did it ever. People like to make big pronouncements. Well, we've had 116 win, and we've had 10 15s win. So from a seeding standpoint, you're dealing with 11. This is one of the top 5 upsets in NCAA tournament history.
In so many different ways, because typically when 15s win, go back to FGCU, Dunk City, we're familiar with that where we live. They took it to Georgetown the whole game. I mean, but and particularly in the second half, they were in control. St. Peter's was in control of their game, but it was a tight game. And typically when you go to overtime with the better team, what happens in overtime? Talent wins out. I was so impressed with how they battled back from
They were down 6 with 4 minutes to go.
A handful of 4 and 6 point deficits that they kept battling back from, getting good shots, sticking with their offense. Incredibly impressive. And the resolve of their coach, he was able to keep the kids calm because he looked like he was just enjoying the moment.
Made the Sweet 16 as a player at Seton Hall a little over 20 years ago. Regarded in the Northeast as the up-and-coming coach. And was thought of, the Seton Hall coach is up for the Maryland job. There's talk that Mike Anderson might leave St. John's and go to Tulsa. And the thought was that Holloway was going to be very much in the mix for one or both of those jobs. I think now if one or both of those open, honestly, if you're St. John's and your choice is 74-year-old Rick Pitino or Holloway.
I'm not hiring a 74-year-old coach. You know that.
Even if it's Rick Pitino?
Even if it's Rick Pitino.
Okay. All right. But, that's obviously what last night did for him, is that it's going to be a one-person interview with one of those jobs in the Northeast coming up here. And it could be soon coming up here. But the other thing is that it was Kentucky. FGCU beat Georgetown, which is a name program, certainly, has history in the sport. And the fact that the game was in Philadelphia, so all the neutral fans were not only rooting for the underdog, but those fans hate Georgetown because they're all Nova fans. But, Princeton beat UCLA in the mid-90s. And I don't know if it was a 215, but it was a big one. I think it was 413, 3-4, 14, something like that. And UCLA had won the title the year before, but it was UCLA. And you're like, wow, you're taking down basketball royalty. Of all the 215s, I forget, was it Wofford that took down Iowa State one year? Okay, but it's Iowa State. This is Kentucky.
And you're not just having to beat the 2 seed, you're having to beat the 2 seed and the best traveling college basketball fandom that there is. There is no school that travels like Kentucky basketball.
They just call them BBN, Big Blue Nation.
That's right.
And it was a 3-hour car ride from Lexington to where that game was played. And they were there. And St. Peter's was damn near playing a road game. Didn't matter.
No, it didn't.
Statistically, and we all know why we love sports. We do. And just whether it's once a year, once a month, once a decade, or what have you, something happens that just kind of reminds you of why it is that we all spend the hours and the days watching and loving sports the way we do. Because last night's result made no sense on so many levels. St. Peter's offensively is in the bottom 25% of all Division I basketball teams. In offensive efficiency, they're in the bottom 15% of all Division I men's basketball teams this season. Now, you got to remember, they're playing in this small little Northeast Conference. They played a Providence and a VCU, but, they're putting up these numbers against very ordinary competition, and they're putting up such bad numbers. And now they play Kentucky. There's 3 pros who played last night for Kentucky. They had 2 point guards on the floor damn near any time they wanted. That big fella, that's a lottery pick. And they shot over 50% from beyond the arc, over 50% from the field, and 85% of their free throws. Take the season numbers, crumple them up, and throw them.
And porn star mustache just buried another 3 for St. Peter's.
Off the bench.
Wow. Everything about it was terrific.
Yes, it was. No team led by more than 6 in that game. I mean, that was a heavyweight fight. The middleweight got in the ring with the heavyweight.
Except for it was Ali and the guy that they did the Rocky thing
after.
Right. We weren't expecting
this.
No,
Wepner hit. It was fittingly enough, he's from Jersey, so that's a great analogy.
That's what it was, because even Barkley kind of said it after the game as Kenny Smith's raving about their offense and how they're getting open, and Barkley goes, "That's terrible defense. Don't give me that's great. You don't play a screen like that."
St. Peter's from Jersey City, New Jersey, a small private institution. There are so many stats that come out of this. My favorite stat may be this. You could buy a courtside season ticket for St. Peter's basketball for $250 this year. One courtside seat for one Kentucky game costs over $300.
Seems about right.
That's how much bigger one program is over the other. But not for 2 hours on the hardwood on a given night on a neutral floor.
This one's going to sting.
Yeah.
For a long, because David, you picked him, whatever. But they thought there's a difference when, I picked Kentucky. They really thought, again, this was their year. They got Baylor in their side, the weakest one.
Well, and also they just really like their team. We can take care of the ball because we can put 2 point guards on the floor. The experience from last year when we had an awful season. Cal went the transfer route this time and brought in some guys with experience. They could play inside. Their perimeter game had been okay most of the year. Wasn't last night. Only hit 4 threes. Thank you very much. But the fact of the matter is, believe it or not, while Kentucky obviously did not play their A game, and I don't even know if they played their B game, but still, St. Peter's played their A game for 45 minutes. That's the thing.
And to me, it's the 5 minutes that's even more impressive than the 40. Come on, David. How many times have we seen a underdog take a game? I don't care what the sport is. Take a team to overtime. And then it's just over.
They're spent.
That's all that's left.
It's the adage. I mean, the longer the game goes, the team with more talent normally wins. Why? They're more talented. They got more good players. Yeah. They shot 51% from the field, 53% from beyond the arc, 86% from the line.
And making free throws at the end of the game like they'd been there a million times in that position.
Kentucky, meanwhile, missed
every free throw that they took except for one in overtime. I think they were 1 of 6 in overtime with free throws.
Yeah. That is the one thing. The longer the game goes, while the team with more talent should pull away, when they're not pulling away, and the arena has a murmur to it.
Well, and look at Big Blue Nation was there, but every other seat that was not taken by Big Blue Nation was rooting for St. Peter's.
Got that
right. Murray State people were rooting for him. Anybody that was there for the Dons was rooting for him. Anybody that was just there. Amazing.
Awesome stuff. 10th time a 15 is beaten a 2. One of the biggest. 18 and a half point underdog, something like that. And I don't know the point spreads of the other 15s that have won. I know FGCU was like 13 and a half when they upset Georgetown, but St. Peter's.
Down goes Kentucky.
And the game will be the inspiration for our poll question. If you let me have one poll question, I need you to trust me.
Trust you? This is your thing. I mean, you realize that the poll question's your thing.
Well, it's supposed to be.
I'm the one that types it, puts it up, and has to do the work. But you're the one that is very much that we have to have a poll question.
Well, we've got one.
Perfect.
I thought of it at about 8:30 last night. Miller and Moulton. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's a really big iceberg on this Friday edition of Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for being with us, Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Oh, Warren, I could care less. It's such a great story.
That Annie Yeager
Oh, I didn't see it.
just has a tweet out with a Packers jersey on like this and a nasty face. First two things I think is your tweet about Fran McCaffrey and that picture of her. All right, how do you want to word this? Hey, you poll question. Well, I knew you were looking down, so I wasn't stopping. I got shit to do this break. You think about it. I'm going to put.
Well, I was just as a fan,
as a neutral fan.
As a neutral fan.
Would you rather see the upset and your bracket?
As a fan, you have a decision to make as the major upset is occurring. A, root for the upset.
All right, wait a minute. Now you got me. Hang on. That's fine. Okay. Okay.
Chris, your first time? Sure, you enjoyed that shit. Chris, go Fins. He never watched March Madness until last night on the Twitch chat.
Wow. Sure, Chris, how old are you? Oh, well, yes. Calipari will definitely get some booster heat between last year's debacle and this year's tournament flop.
One of my earliest March Madness memories that I have was Gordon Hayward's almost game-winning half-court shot. That was crazy. $23. Well, he's like around my age.
All right, come here. Can't put all. You got to remember, I've only got 25 spaces in the choices, so I've got to kind of put the answer up there, if you know what I mean.
Ugh.
As a neutral fan, yeah, or what do you root for? Yeah.
Okay.
What do you start rooting for?
I do like the phrase "save my bracket." All right, that's up. Poll question up. 6:20 in the morning.
So, and you're going to keep it through the weekend, or
I put for a day.
okay? Robes, what's your problem with Rick Pitino? Come on, Robes. He can coach the Gophers. You'd win. And actually, Pitino's 69, but
Doesn't change the way I think. Long before Josh loses his job.
who?
Georgia Tech guy. How's he
Oh, yeah. I actually thought there was a chance this year. It could still happen.
I mean, at some point, you got to go to the tournament there. I mean, I don't care.
10 seconds.
They haven't been relevant in a decade, David.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for being with us. Friday edition, Florida Sports Network. Got a great show lined up for you. Pat Kirwan, Josh Pastner, the Georgia Tech men's basketball coach, will head out to Green Bay. Lots of goings on with the Packers. Certain people staying, certain people leaving, and they're not necessarily who we thought in both categories. Talk about that in a bit. This could be a record. It's a noteworthy moment in the history of Miller and Moulton. Poll questions up at 6:23 a.m. Here's the thought process behind it. Last night, St. Peter's in Kentucky. There comes a moment during these games, because 98% of those watching have filled out some kind of a bracket. Whether it's at the office, whether it's on your phone, you're just, fine, I'll submit a bracket in this contest, whatever.
Right. And 99% of the people don't have an actual rooting interest in the game
Right.
outside of their bracket.
So the upsets, it's there. It's possible last night. And you have to make a decision. The first half, you're just enjoying the game. Oh, cool. Wow. All right. It's kind of like Georgia State Gonzaga yesterday. You're like, wow, 1-point game at the half. How about that? This is cool. All right. You're not expecting Georgia State to win, but you're like, you know what? Thanks for the hour.
And I had the Zags winning my bracket, and all of a sudden I'm like, well, look at these guys. They're playing fearless. This is fun.
And, when mid-second half, the Zags are pulling away, you're like, well, they're one. This should happen. But last night, obviously, the two did not pull away.
Not once.
And so there comes a point in time down the stretch. I think once you get the under 8 media timeout, where you have to make a decision as a fan. Mark, I equate it to us hockey fans in the Stanley Cup playoffs at the end of regulation when it's tied and you literally have a decision to make.
By the way, David and I might be the only two people that make this decision.
No, we are not.
All right, you can tell yourself that, but we are on but David and I have a rule, and we've texted one another.
Yes,
we've literally texted, you staying? Because when hockey overtime starts, to us, you have to make a decision. When you're in for the duration.
Right.
And that can mean Keith Primo scoring a goal at around 2:33 in the morning
That's
in the
right.
fifth overtime.
Yep, that means you could go Flyers, Penguins, 5 OTs. If you're in, you're in.
But you're in.
Right. Even if you have a morning radio show, you have a decision to make. My favorite.
I'm close enough to this place now
You
that I
can
can
do
just come here. and watch the overtime.
Then just lay on the floor or something. Hope I show up and wake you up. Put it this way. During the playoffs, if I pull in the back and I see the golf cart, I'll know exactly what happened. True story. Gary Danielson texted. He's heard us talk about this so long. Gary will text me as it goes to overtime. I'm going to bed. Are you in or out? And 90% of the time, it's like, I'm in.
I'm in.
He's like, all right, let me know how it turns out. So I think, and maybe we're just weird, which goodness knows we are.
We are.
But I think as a fan, when you get to that under 8 media timeout, you are making a decision. Am I rooting for the upset or am I rooting for my bracket? That this has been cool. This has been fun. This has been a really entertaining hour and a half. But now, serious, one side or the other. Which way am I rooting on this? Am I rooting for St. Peter's or am I rooting for the bracket?
Who were you rooting for last night?
I always root for the upset. Always. It's a bracket. Who cares?
Exactly. We're going to be wrong most of the time
Right.
with brackets.
Does anybody fill out a bracket? Because usually you're in a contest with a lot of people. Do you really think you're winning money on your brackets? I've won money on a bracket in 20 years.
I've won a couple here and there in my life. It's fun when you win, like
Yeah,
anything else.
Totally.
I think it's more fun to be on top of the leaderboard, after week 1 and week 2 in the office, so you can walk around.
Right.
But not for the sake of St. Peter's beating Kentucky.
No, absolutely not. I'd sacrifice every bracket every time.
This could be one of the more one-sided votes we've ever had. I think the upset's going to win going away.
And if that's the case, I think people are not being honest with us. Telling you, people have a little bit of vanity. The sports fan has a little bit of vanity when it comes to the brackets. Mark, they like to be able to say, get through the first weekend. They like to be able to walk into their office. They like to be able to, be having lunch with their friends the next week and go, I got 13 of the 16 remaining and all in my whole Final Four.
And then you answer back with, I've got 2 of my Final Four remaining and my team that I had picking to win the whole thing's done.
Right. That's just after the first day.
Right. We've only played 16 of these.
We only have 47 more games to go. What could go wrong? So I'm always root for the upset. I do. And KM says in our Twitch chat room here, and by the way, with twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. It's the Miller and Moulton channel on Twitch. If you're an Amazon Prime customer, you have a free Twitch channel. Make us your channel of choice. We'd really appreciate it. Follow us, subscribe to us. It would be great. But as KM says, he roots for the upset because he figures, well, all of our brackets are getting busted. So what the heck? Let's have the upset. But like in my case, the team going down, they're winning the whole damn thing.
Right.
So what? Let's go. I'm in.
Make the rest of the tournament a lot easier for you to watch.
Oh, yeah. Don't even have to pay attention. From a bracket standpoint, who cares? How's your bracket? I don't know. I threw it out Thursday night, St. Patrick's Day.
Right around 8:30 at night.
Right. I have no idea. So that's the poll question. Do you find yourself down the stretch rooting for the upset or deep down going, this will destroy my bracket? I cannot have this. I will say, in the St. Peter's, Kentucky one, come on, nobody picked St. Peter's.
Right. But not everybody had Kentucky winning the whole thing.
True. But in the Richmond, Iowa case, all right, now that's a painful one. Don't get me wrong. I'm rooting for Richmond down the stretch. I was as I'm watching it because I'm a winner either way. I get to make fun of myself and slam Fran McCaffrey in Iowa if they lose. And if they win, team I picked survived and whew, okay. So I was rooting for Richmond down the stretch. Iowa clanking another one. I'm like, there you go. Keep firing them up.
Well, I just love the coach for Richmond. Let's put the big guy on your best three-point shooter. Let's mix this up. Let's make you really uncomfortable. Because this is coaching happens now. This is part of the reason why we don't like regular season college basketball is it's overcoached. But now great coaches can come and shine and put some matchups in and make teams uncomfortable. And that's what Richmond did yesterday. And credit goes to the Spiders. Great win.
Well, and quite frankly, Juwan Howard and his staff deserve credit.
They do.
Midway through that game, they totally changed plan A and went right to plan B. They said, man, we're going through the post here. They are smothering us. How about if we just stop going through the post? We don't think they can guard us. And sure enough, they couldn't. And then defensively, they switched defenses, and that worked too. And next thing you know, so much for that 16-point lead. We're going to take the game over from here, thank you. What a great first day of the tournament. It is madness for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
If we got one thing right yesterday, Mark, it was the overall theme. The specifics we were wrong on. Like, we were all excited about the 4-13 matchups, and while they were terrific games, none of the 13s won. And we looked at the 5-12s and said, ooh, boy, I don't know. And sure enough, both 12s beat 5s. But we did say, I know it was a long time ago, November and December, but we had a crazy start to the college basketball season where everybody was getting beat. And you even pointed out 3 weeks ago, which you said we had top 6 teams in the country all lose and 7 of the top 9 lose on a given Saturday. I mean, we did say this is not going to be a chalk tournament.
And yesterday proved Iowa Big Ten champion winner, Big Ten tournament winner, rather, done. Kentucky, done. We'll find out what happens today. We'll give you everything that you missed from yesterday coming up next on the Starting Five right here, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. At least they had to be a little happier at Valspar. Even par got you T90.
Does 1 under make the cut right now or no?
1 under is T69. So yes. So you're gonna have to shoot maybe 2 under to maybe you get to 3.
Right.
I mean, when you got 90, actually you got 106 guys at even or better. I bet you it almost goes to 3. Jonathan Vegas, Sam Burns, and 2 guys you've never heard of leaving the tournament. Who the f is David Lipsky?
Don't know Lipsky. Hadwin, I believe, is Canadian.
He is very good. I only know
top of a blue card. That's why I know that. That's still in my head. Yes, Steve, I think it was like $400,000 he got for winning the Big Ten tournament title. Goes to show what's important. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I know. The Kentucky Sports Network will be amazing today. Just amazing today. Yeah, Cam, I don't know. Well, and, Klecko, it's even interesting. Like, I'm guessing they didn't go back last night. I'm guessing they stayed over because I'm sure they had the rooms paid for. So my guess is the bus rides today.
Guaranteed, because there's no way they had a bus deal scheduled for. I mean, think of the logistics. You got to hire the bus company. You got to hire the bus driver. As a two, you won't do that. So whatever, the director of basketball ops last night was on the phone with the bus company getting them there first thing this morning. You're supposed to get a bonus for winning the Big Ten tournament, Steve. I mean, I'm sorry he lost. They played badly, but don't start piling on a bonus that he got for winning. Pretty harps around the money so much. It's not yours.
You okay over there?
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
As we approach 20 minutes before the hour, thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Pat Kirwan, Josh Pastner, MK Burgess, NFL at large, the NCAA tournament at large, and specifically Packers Talk, all coming up later on in the show. Right now, it is time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
just the 10th time in tournament history a 15 took down a 2. A small private Jesuit school in New Jersey, St. Peter's, the Peacocks.
Did you apply there?
No.
I mean, just curious. You ended up at a Jesuit school. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Private school. No.
Well, wasn't the University of Scranton a private school?
No, public school. I'm almost positive. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I could have sworn it was public school.
Okay, no problem. Sorry.
But St. Peter's, the Peacocks, 85-79 over this little school named Kentucky in overtime. Peacock shot 51% from the field, 53% from three, 86% from the line.
University of Scranton is a private Jesuit university in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Really?
I mean, the internet could be wrong.
No, I doubt it. Huh. Who knew?
Usually when they're a Catholic or a Jesuit school, that kind of screams private.
You make a dadgum good point. Now, you frame the argument that way, it seems pretty obvious.
It didn't. The reason I asked why you went to St. Peter's, for crying out loud.
I never thought of St. Peter's.
I wasn't trying to pile on, but you went to a Jesuit school in Pennsylvania, wondered why the Jesuit school in Jersey wasn't good enough for you.
Maybe I just thought because of the clientele that I was in amongst, I'm poor white trash, but I got to admit there were a lot of people just like me at Scranton, so I figured it was a public school.
Look what we discovered today.
I know I tried to get into Rutgers. Now that's public.
That is public.
Couple of 12 beat 5 because let's face it, that's what 12s do. In the afternoon, Richmond beat 67-63. Fran McCaffrey, we need to talk. And New Mexico State took down UConn 70-63. Not the greatest of days for the Big East. UConn losing to New Mexico State, and Marquette just gave up another bucket.
Wow. You got that one right. I'll give you that, David.
Yeah.
You had that one cold.
Yeah, I
should have bet that one.
I did. Problem was I bet UCLA hard against Akron, and they barely won. Michigan Rapid beat Colorado State. We talked up the Mountain West all year, and they got 4 teams in. Mark, do you know how they did the first day of the tournament?
Not very well.
I'd be 0-4.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Michigan won by 12. UCLA barely survived Akron by 4. Arkansas barely survived Vermont by 4. Gonzaga was damn near tied mid-second half with Georgia State in a 116 matchup before pulling away to win by 21. The upset of the night was obviously Kentucky losing to St. Peter's. The game of the night, though, you could argue was Murray State, San Francisco. It was terrific, a 7-10 matchup. The Racers of Murray State, a winner in overtime, 92-87. That's right. It'll be Murray State against St. Peter's. The winner goes to the Sweet 16. You have to love everything about that. We got 8 games today.
Yeah, Murray State wanted Kentucky. You think they're okay with St. Peter's?
Yeah, I do, actually. I really do. The matchups, by the way, in the second round: Kansas, Creighton, Tennessee, Michigan, Richmond, Providence, St. Mary's, UCLA, St. Peter's, Murray State, North Carolina, Baylor, Memphis, Gonzaga. Memphis looked good yesterday. And New Mexico State, Arkansas. We got 16 games today, I should say. We also have the women's tournament getting underway today in a big way, although Florida State lost their play-in game last night by 11 to Missouri State. Miami will face USC today on the men's side. The Canes are a 2-point dog. Some other matchups that may interest you: Ohio State, Loyola Chicago, a 7-10 matchup is a pick'em. Illinois, an 8-point favorite over the Mocs at Chattanooga. We got to go down in flames on the 13 seed, don't we?
I would say so.
Michigan State, Davidson. Sparty's a 1-point favorite in a 7-10 matchup. And Coach K's final run. Duke, Cal State Fullerton. Duke an 18.5-point favorite, which was the same amount Kentucky was favored by against St. Peter's.
Hope we get the same result.
Archie Miller, the new men's coach at Rhode Island. Women's tournament, South Florida and Miami, 11:30 a.m. That's your first basketball of the day, ladies and gentlemen. South Florida, Miami, women's. Canes a 1-point favorite. Lay the point. I'm telling you, lay the point. FGCU in a 5-12 matchup. They're a 5.5-point dog against Va Tech. That one tips at 2:30. NFL. If you were not paying attention yesterday, so the Browns were notified they're out, and the Panthers were reportedly notified they're out in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. Right. So it's down to the Saints or Falcons.
Correct.
There was a report last night by Sports Talk ATL that said Deshaun's going to Atlanta. Announcement coming up in a few hours. Those few hours have come and gone. Saints or Falcons, reportedly for Deshaun Watson. He has said, can you give me the weekend? Both teams said, yeah, sure. We got nothing going on. The Falcons, though, owed Matt Ryan an $8+ million roster bonus either today or tomorrow. And they said, hey, can we push that back till Tuesday? And Matt Ryan said, yeah, sure. So it's interesting how Matt Ryan, who is waiting in the wings and may get pushed out in Atlanta, how he is handling it, as opposed to Baker Mayfield in Cleveland.
You mean the child in Cleveland who is proving every day that I am very wrong about him? I don't want to trade. You don't like me anymore. I want to go home.
I told you how much I love you, and this is how you pay me back.
I want my ball back.
Baker Mayfield officially and publicly asked for a trade yesterday. The Browns officially and publicly said no. Be interesting to see how that plays out. Yes, it will be. The Eagles cut Fletcher Cox yesterday, saved $16 million against the cap. They designated him a June 1st cut, or cap casualty, I should say. They are, however, open to re-signing him. So it'll be noteworthy as to how Fletcher Cox handles things over the next 10 weeks. Does he say to the Eagles, go pound sand, or does he say, oh, okay, so this is business?
It is business, but if he's going to have to take a pay cut, might he want to play for someone that's going to be a little better?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
right.
That's the business that Fletcher Cox can play right now. So,
No doubt.
You want to restructure, that's great, but I don't want to play for you for that.
The Rams, by the way, signed wide receiver Allen Robinson. 3 years, $45 million. They hope to re-sign Odell Beckham Jr., and apparently Robert Woods is available. Huh. Wow. I know. But you know, Mark, funny things happen with wide receivers. Because the Packers traded Davante Adams to the Raiders for a first and second round pick in this year's draft. Now, I will say Green Bay has 4 of the top 60 picks in the draft. They have their 2, and now they have the Raiders 2 at 22 and 53. The Raiders promptly made Davante Adams the highest paid wide receiver in football. In fact, he's making more than Freddie Freeman is with the Dodgers. 5 years, $142.5 million. Do some quick math. That's 28.5 a year, and like 70 of it's guaranteed. Most of you may not remember, Davante Adams played his college football at Fresno State. His quarterback, Derek Carr.
Aaron must be really pleased.
Apparently, Rodgers knew. And it was apparently Davante said to Aaron, I'm not playing for Green Bay anymore. I'm done. I'm not going to do it. We've talked, the money they're offering me, they think if they give me 20 to 22 a year that they're meeting, and no, I'm done, just so you know. And if they tag me, I'm not playing. And so reportedly, that's part of what Rodgers was considering as to whether to come back to Green Bay or not, was that he knew he wasn't going to have number 17 to throw to. And you got to remember, Vontaze, Scantling's
a free agent.
Their number 4 receiver's a free agent. Tanyan's coming off an ACL. And all these wide receivers are being signed in free agency, and they haven't signed any of them.
Not a one.
So would they be candidates for Robert Woods, who's also coming off a major injury, by the way? But the Packers have not drafted a wide receiver in the first round in 20 years. Do you think that might change? They got 2 picks in the 20s.
It's going to be really funny when they don't draft a wide receiver again.
Well, there's no doubt.
If they go fullback quarterback, I'd be really impressed.
That didn't work out well for him last time.
Wow.
One other NFL note. Remember yesterday at this time, Zadarius Smith was signing with the Ravens. Packers cut him. He was going back to Baltimore. Yeah, he backed out of the deal with the Ravens. So he's still available. One NBA game last night. Pistons got 51 from Sadiq Bey and beating the Magic by 14. The big NBA news, however, Steph Curry officially diagnosed with a left foot sprain, but he's out indefinitely. He is expected back for the playoffs, which is in about a month. Bunch of hockey games last night. Panthers lost in Vegas 5-3. Toronto wore hideous St. Patrick's Day uniforms, but beat Carolina 3-2.
And in a major announcement, they've changed to those green and white jerseys for the rest of the season and at least the first round of the playoffs.
Because they got goaltending and beat a quality team in them. Islanders edge the Rangers 2-1 in what many think will be Claude Giroux's last game in Philadelphia. The Flyers beat the Preds 5-4. It was his 1,000th game in the NHL, all of them with the Flyers. You know, he's probably a top 5 Flyer all time. Trading deadline's Monday afternoon. He's expected to be dealt. Pittsburgh beat St. Louis 3-2 in a shootout. Ovi scored again for the Caps in a win over Columbus. Dallas, Edmonton, Detroit, and the Kings also victorious. Did you see Charles Schwartzel's club throw at the Valspar?
I heard about it. I have not yet seen it, and that's on me because there's plenty of places to go look, and I love a good club throw.
Because of the wind that was behind him, I believe the world record is not going to be made official in the javelin throw, but it was spectacular. Coming off a triple bogey, he hits a tee shot short on a par 3 and projectiles the club. Overhand throw, 40, 50 yards easy.
Nice.
Yes. You never see this on the PGA Tour. Was beautiful. He then holes out on the very next hole for eagle. You should see his scorecard. There's a 4-way tie for the lead in Tampa at the Valspar. Sam Burns, Adam Hadwin, David Lipsky, and Johnny Vegas all tied at 7 under par. Going to have to go low to make the cut. At least 2 under, probably 3 under to make the cut in Tampa. And that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
When's the last time you threw a club? And I mean threw a club.
In anger?
Banged it into the ground,
No,
not tossed it at your bag.
It's been I couldn't even tell you. I'm not good enough to throw clubs. I figured that out a long time ago. I try not even to swear after I hit a bad shot because I stink. So you got to be good to throw a club.
Late teens, I threw a club. It got stuck in a tree. It's the last time I threw a club because I had to climb up into the tree and get it.
Wow. I did see one of my playing partners throw, Jim Weir had a good club throw about 2 weeks ago. And I was in the group behind him and heckled him for about 2 holes.
Javelin, I mean, sideways. I mean, how did he throw? Did he throw like a boomerang?
Boomerang.
Right.
More of the double arm
Right.
baseball bat, let it rip.
Nice.
From the tee, from the green, the putter, from the green to the next tee.
Ooh, okay. All right. That's
right after
solid.
a little 3 wiggle.
That's solid. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the Chicken Bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, the Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with the Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. You loved the Wrigley Spearmint Gum uniforms? God, I thought they were horrible, Johnny Mac. You know, the good news about my Florida Sports Network shirt is it's always going to be clean when I need to wear it.
Well, Smales, I'll say this. You know, when you consider all the talent that he's had and he's got just the one title. But then again, Bill Self at Kansas has one title.
Both cheated well.
Right. Both are good at it. I mean, Wes is still trying to get Cal players.
My wife was funny yesterday because I left the phone and she goes, I knew you'd need it. I go, I don't need it. She goes, I know, but you need it. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. So I pulled in. She goes, that was Roger, right? I said, Roger, can you give this to Mark? And he goes, I suppose so. And she goes, it was Roger, right? I'm like, yeah. She goes, good, because I called him Roger. Because Roger's out having a dart. 161 perfect brackets out of 17.35 million.
Right.
God, that's great.
Yeah, that is.
That is just so solid.
What do you want to do here? It's just an hour to kill.
I know. Let's go. You want to go football first? Just a little.
Well, first, let's do the text.
15 seconds.
About Palm Harbor.
Yep. I got right now one of 11's voted
10
to save
seconds.
my bracket.
Okay.
9%. You can call.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the top of the 7 o'clock hour, and we thank you for beginning your Friday and ending your week with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Pat Kirwan, an hour from now. Georgia Tech men's coach Josh Pastner in our 8 o'clock hour. And for those of you that are with us in the bonus hour, we will head to Green Bay and talk about all of the comings and goings and doings with the Packers. But first, our poll question, which was up at a record time, officially at 6:23 a.m. There comes a moment when a major upset is possible. The NCAA tournament, in which you, the sports fan, have a decision to make. Do you root for the upset, or do you say this was a fun hour and a half of entertainment, but I need so-and-so to win to save my bracket? Upset or your bracket? What do you start rooting for down the stretch and potentially even into overtime?
And I stayed away from you because I figured it was upset.
Always.
But I wasn't positive. And after Iowa had already gone down,
right,
I thought piling on at that point was a little insensitive.
Why, just because I picked Kentucky to win the whole thing?
Yes. As my wife's sitting there going, it would be really funny if this was on NBC, the Peacock Network.
Nice.
Just bringing her A game last night.
Wow, way to go.
Yep. But I was clapping, rooting.
I was too.
And that's when my wife picks her head up from the phone and goes, I probably should watch this.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
like,
you should.
What is actually going on here? I
Right.
said, we've got a 15 here.
Yeah.
Hanging with Kentucky.
Right. Put the college gymnastics aside.
Just for a moment. It's on tape. You can watch it anytime you'd like.
Right. Georgia wins.
Yes, I know she gets a 10. She was an Olympian. She should get a 10.
Right. But back to St. Peter's in Kentucky.
As a neutral fan, what do you start rooting for? The upset in your bracket is busted or save my bracket? And right now, upset. 9 of 10 votes.
Oh, look at that. I'm surprised.
Moulton doesn't believe any of
I
you.
don't. There's a little bit of pride / ego / vanity involved in people with their brackets.
And we've got to get to something here. We've got a little bit of a problem.
What's that?
Well, it's on the text line.
Okay.
One of your favorite places.
I love the text line.
I know you do. And to text the show, you text the keyword, FSN Radio. It's all one word, FSN Radio, to 21,000, to our ever-growing audience, as we are now on a network. We haven't done this before. We've been in the 239 for quite a while now. Many months now on in Tampa, now in Port Charlotte for a little while, in Lake City for a little while. So we're expanding our brand.
Right.
And, David, we got a text.
Right.
That just simply says, hey, they're not playing in Tampa. I think he's talking about the Valspar because they're technically in Palm Harbor, Florida.
My bad. That was lazy. It's about, 20 miles northwest of Tampa. It's north of Clearwater, north of Dunedin even. So that's right. I mean, that's true. That's lazy by me.
And that's a generalization when you're down here that we can say. And we apologize to everybody in the greater Tampa, St. Petersburg area because we know Tampa is not St. Pete. St. Pete is not Tampa. We're in the Fort Myers, Naples area. Trust me.
Right.
We understand.
Right. If it's in Fort Myers and you say Naples, the folks in Naples go, it wasn't in Naples. Right. So I got it. All right. My bad.
So
got lazy there.
We'll be all over it.
I will say, though, on tour, that's how they think of it, though.
Exactly.
The Arnold Palmer, there's Orlando, the TPC. I mean, they kept referring to it on TV all the time as Jacksonville. All right, when technically it's Ponte Vedra.
We got this text as well. Can we agree that brackets are like fantasy football teams? No one cares about your bracket outside of the individual filling out, yet everyone talks about it as if it's the biggest deal ever. I will say brackets are, they are like, I agree with you, they are like fantasy football teams, but I believe so many more people participate in brackets. When I used to run the bracket, when I ran the hockey team, or when I ran the marketing department of the hockey team, I don't want to get too far out of myself.
No,
there.
now you might have at times wanted to run the hockey team, but that
A couple of times,
that was
probably should have.
Whoa.
But maybe they'd have more than one ring. But when I did those brackets, there were ladies in the office that would spend their $10, fill them out, have no clue,
and crush you.
And yes.
Yeah.
And some would do horribly, but some would do really well. And I never saw those same people jumping up and down to play fantasy football. I think it's basically fantasy football on steroids because there are that many more people that are doing a bracket. But to your point, sir, I agree with you 100%. No one cares about your bracket. But yet today at work, you're going to walk in and someone's going to go, went 13-3 yesterday.
My wife still brags about the bracket. She finished second in a pool. She rode Utah all the way. She had Utah winning the whole thing with Majerus. It was the year they lost in the final. I remember asking her, I go, what's this thing with you and Utah? She goes, I don't know. I'm like, did you see my cousin Vinny recently? The two Utes, and you picked the Utes. Still brings it up nearly 25 years later. Miller and Moulton on this Friday. Mark, it's funny, but in baseball and football, these teams are spending money like they have it. And yet these teams have been crying, oh, the cap, up against the cap. How are we going to make room against the cap? Remember, the Packers 2 weeks ago needed to cut about $45 million just to get to the cap. Now with the trade of Devontae Adams and re-signing Aaron Rodgers to the biggest contract per year in the history of the NFL, I believe in the history of North American sport per year, they're 20-something million under the cap. Now, no Devontae, no Zadarius Smith, but everybody else, for the most part, they've re-signed, they've reworked.
No receivers, period.
No, they don't have any wide receivers. I will say that. Randall Cobb is back in the fold at $2 million a year. And that's pretty much it. I got one other wide receiver who caught more than 10 passes, I believe, on the team. That's it. You would think Valdez-Scantling will get a few bucks from him, right? I mean, at this point,
they're going to have to.
I mean, you need to bring somebody back who's
at least somewhat familiar with the offense
that he can tolerate. I mean, he didn't throw to him in the divisional round against the Niners.
Maybe he should have.
Well, he definitely should have late. He was wide open over the middle on that interception on what was, I believe, the last offensive play of the game for them.
But the other side of this from Green Bay, look at what Vegas is doing in quick fashion. They've gone out and spent like drunken sailors.
Now, they've released a few guys, too, along the way.
But they think they've improved, obviously. I mean, not before Adams. They made some good moves.
Well, how about the AFC West? You want to talk about teams that are tired of getting their butt kicked by the Chiefs. I mean, the Chargers, Broncos, and Raiders have collectively said, enough. What's it, 6 years in a row? Chiefs have won the West, I think. And they are fed up.
But, I mean, they're deep. They went and got Chandler Jones. They got the best edge rusher that was out there.
Yeah, I mean, the Chargers traded for Khalil, right?
Right. I mean, both of them went out and said, all right, we're going to get after passers.
Denver went and signed Randy Gregory. Oh, yeah, got Russell Wilson. Yeah, some major moves going on here. Major moves.
And again, it's seemingly all in the AFC.
And in the West. But the Bills are making a few moves as well. The Bills are saying, you know what, we're tired of Kansas City,
right,
too.
Bills are making moves. Indianapolis wants to make moves. Cleveland was trying to make moves. The Bears lost another receiver, oh yeah.
How about Jarvis Landry as a Packer? What do you say if you're Green Bay? if you're Jarvis. What do you say? What do you say? We make this happen?
Look at, can Green Bay afford it? It's the first thing.
Well, they got 20 plus million right now. Now they do have 2 first rounders and 2 second rounders, so they're going to need to have a little bit more money to sign their quote unquote draft picks. But Mark, they can sign Jarvis Landry and still have enough money left over for the draft picks. Now they wouldn't have money for anything else. But I mean, Mark, the new year is not even 48 hours old. I mean, it's not like we can't cut other players.
They're going to have to
reconfigure other contracts to get more money. But I mean, I think you can get Jarvis for between 13 and 15. I think he would do a 3 for 40. I do. I think he would want more because I believe the contract he just had with Cleveland paid less. I thought it was in the 4 for 42 range. I thought he was making 10.5 to 11 a year. But I'm guessing if you're Jarvis Landry, you watched the contract Allen Robinson signed yesterday, 3 years, $45 million, and you're going, well, I'm as good as Allen Robinson. And they may say, well, you got a little more tread worn off your tires. And he'll go, yeah, but I'm better. I mean, if somebody offered Jarvis the same contract that Allen Robinson just signed, you think he'd take it? Because I do.
Today. It wouldn't waste a second to take that deal.
Right. And I know he's not a true number one. Just like, we don't know if Allen Robinson's a true number one. We rank receivers now. You got to be a 1. He's a 2. He's a wide receiver 3.
I know he's not as good, but you want to cheap out and see what's there. You got Cole Beasley just got released as a slot guy. But there's not a lot. I mean, Juju's the youngest free agent wide receiver out there.
You trust him?
No. I'm just talking about the guys that are out there.
Because the other thing, I trust Jarvis Landry. Somebody made the point yesterday that I was listening to, in which they were talking about CeeDee Lamb, in which they said, hey, we all think CeeDee Lamb's terrific. CeeDee Lamb's never lined up as the number 1. He's never lined up in which it's like every play we got to double team him. And they said it is different. It's an adjustment. It's a mental adjustment.
Well, that's why Kirk getting the money they have and talking to,
right.
Right. What's he going to do?
It's ridiculous money that Christian Kirk got compared to A, what he's produced, and B, he's never been the second best wide receiver on the field for his team, basically. He's always been the third.
And now you're trying to pay him basically 1 money.
Yeah, damn near. Right.
Well, it's pretty. I mean, 18's in the ballpark of 1 money.
Sure is.
You line that up as far as highest paid receivers, he's going to be in the top third.
But if I'm Green Bay, I offer Jarvis here. I'll put the Allen Robinson contract in front of him. I'll give you 3 for 45. I'll guarantee the first 2 years of it. What do you say? You haven't done a whole lot of winning in the NFL, Jarvis. I mean, you've played in 3 playoff games, 1 with the Dolphins, 2 with the Browns. You're 1 and 2 in the playoffs. You've been in the league a little while. You want to contend for a Super Bowl? By the way, you want to get out of the AFC? Come to the NFC? It's a little easier over here these days. Hey, if I'm the Packers, I might get in the Odell sweepstakes.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Do you go a little? I mean, not necessarily higher because they're similar, but I'd take OBJ. Julio's too old. I think T.Y.'s too old.
Odell was probably not going to be ready at the beginning of the season, but if you're the Packers, I mean, you could be ready for Thanksgiving for all we care. Number 12 will take care of the division. We'll worry about seeding. I mean, at this rate, it doesn't matter. We can lose at home. We can lose away. So, don't worry. You just get yourself healthy. Hey, he caught a touchdown against the Packers. They saw him up close and personal this year. So, just throwing that out there. But they've got a little bit of money now. Of course, they don't have Devontae Adams.
No, I think they'd rather have Adams than the money.
I would think so. But for the record, he told Green Bay, I'm done with you guys. It doesn't matter. I'm done. Not playing here anymore. So I credit both sides for keeping it quiet. That means some agents had to keep their mouths shut. That's where all this stuff comes from, ladies and gentlemen. All these rumors, it comes from agents.
Agents and occasionally someone from the front office. They don't come from players, but the front office does leak some stuff that they want to. But yes, I would say probably an 80-20 rule, David.
Oh, yeah. Miller and Moulton. Thanks so much for listening. The Florida Sports Network.
We'd normally go to commercial here, but our producer's fallen asleep again.
Felipe, it's the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
And I went to the other room to grab my guitar because I'm sitting there by myself, and I thought I'd fuck around while I was watching the games. Games are just about to start. It's like noon. And I see a car. I'm like, oh, Felipe parked it. And I looked, and there's a cop car behind it. I went, Felipe's getting pulled over in my neighborhood. And I went, there's 2 cop cars. What the fuck? I'm like, that's not Felipe. Oh, shit. Here comes the ambulance. I'm like, oh, no. Oh, no. So I go outside, and Jack's got a buddy that kind of looks after him because he is severely diabetic. Guy can get in the garage. But Jack, who usually leaves the garage door open, had it locked. Couldn't get in the house. And the dog had gotten out, and the dog had a little blood on him. Now we're freaking out. Now everybody's fucking losing their mind.
Right.
Turned out he did have a little episode. He was ambulance game. He's fine, but I don't have a key to the man's house.
Right.
Other side doesn't have a key. We all have the garage code, but no one's got a key.
Right. Just say to him, Jack, you got to leave your door open.
Well, I didn't go in. The cop was really cool with the neighbor. Or with the guy that came over. He's like, you did the right thing. Don't think you didn't. You definitely did the right thing. He says, you need to convince that man to give you a key to his house. I'm like, yep.
Nice gif.
Like that one?
Nice.
Someone texted shows siesta is the word you're looking for. Do we start calling Philly Siesta? Is that his new name? Siesta.
Why siesta?
Because you were just taking one.
Well, and this is our last show before we go to hard breaks, too. You have to be awake 30 seconds before the hard break because you're going to have to play the rejoinder. That's our cue that we got less than 30 seconds.
Yep.
Have we made those things, by the way?
No, I got to do that this weekend.
You mean we don't have a production person? I mean, this is a network and everything.
I'm not paid nearly enough.
No wonder Andy in Cleveland is so incredulous. That was so great yesterday.
Oh,
you guys are on a network?
By the way, the best thing I heard is that I listened to the beginning of the next show to hear them. They call it the Sheeman and Sherpa Radio Network because they're on the two stations they're on. They refer to themselves as a network.
That's funny.
Because I just had to hear if they were going to say something snicky, because then the shirts that just children. It's a woman, huh?
I don't think so.
Okay, this is the weird thing, David. According to both overthecap.com and Spot Rack, the Rams, Chiefs, and Giants are all still over the cap. David?
Yeah, I'm wondering, does that figure in like a draft, money for a draft pool?
All I know, I don't
10
know.
seconds.
I don't know. Because one's 8, one's 10, one's 13 over the cap.
Yeah, because they had to be cap compliant, right?
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
$22 minutes past the hour. Thanks for waking up with us, Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. The Florida Sports Network. St. Peter's over Kentucky. Just the 10th 15 to ever beat a 2.
Enough to make you pass out at 7:15 in the morning.
Felipe can't handle the madness. You know, we thought we'd hire the youngest producer possible, A, because he'd be the cheapest, but B, because, you know, it's a morning show.
Energy.
Right.
Enthusiasm.
We need a couple of old guys here.
Keep us up to what's the hip things going on in the world. And the only thing that's going on hip in his world is the back of his eyelids every segment. Are we that boring that we put you to sleep every segment?
No. It's just,
do you hate the NFL that much? You're going to have to learn to love that league.
I will say, growing up, I always hated the NFL offseason because every time I'd want to see baseball highlights, but they just keep talking about Aaron Rodgers as a new contract or something like that. And I'm like, why are we talking about this? There's baseball on. And it pissed me off. But
now it just puts you to sleep.
Right.
No.
Good to know. Usually, you know, I count on putting my wife to sleep, and I'm not just talking about the radio show, but usually between 6 and 7 out. But to have you sitting right here on the other side of the glass, and what's really, ladies and gentlemen, so baffling to Miller and Moulton is you should see he is a ball of energy at 5:30 a.m.
That's the problem.
I mean, climbing the walls, we have to look at him like, hey, man, pace yourself.
You've got to learn to take 5 to 6 a little more mellow.
Right.
I also think you're dressed too warmly. I think the basically you got a sweatshirt on this morning. You're getting too comfortable.
Right.
You got to embrace the air conditioning. Cold keeps you awake.
The other thing is, you know, you may be listening to too much of the show, which our listeners say all the time. But what you should do is, you know, once you get us on the air, you have a general idea when we're going to break. And starting Monday, we're going to go to breaks at a set time. Walk around the office, go outside. Talk to Raj across the hall. He's outside half the show smoking cigarettes. I mean, just, you know, engage in conversation. Say, Raj, I got to go back and send these 2 yahoos to break.
It's just, I am alone here, like in this room. You know what I mean? I feel like maybe if I had a person next to me or something like that.
Bring someone in.
Right.
Okay.
Bring a co-ed in.
Right. Bring a friend. Tell you what, you're an only. Oh no, you're not an only child. See, we were only child. I don't know about you, but I grew up with an imaginary friend.
Me too.
You know, it's always good if you could have one of those.
Still have them now.
Right.
It's who I watch games with half the time.
Right.
Moulton and I both just doing play-by-play, waiting for a little color analyst to come from the imaginary friend.
Just remember what Carol Burnett said. If you talk to God, you're religious. If God talks back, you're schizophrenic. Just keep that in mind. All right. As we go
It's a
forward.
good line then. It's a good line now.
Funny's funny.
Telling you. What's she, 80 years old now, for crying out loud?
Funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. MillerandMoulton.com, FloridaSportsNetwork.com. Feel free to text the show if you haven't already. FSN Radio, all one word. Send it to 21,000. FSN Radio to 21000. Once you do that, you can text your jokes in to Philly to keep him awake at your heart's content.
Do you believe our audience right now that 1 in 10 would rather save their bracket
No,
than see an upset?
absolutely not. No. For as much as people talk about their brackets, and then all of a sudden you're just going to allow it to just go kaplooey that quickly. You're giving up on your bracket that quickly. I don't believe it at all. Even though I do it every single time I root for the upset. Every single time.
Coach David tweeted the show. He said, thank you for picking Kentucky, David. I knew exactly who I wasn't going to pick simply based on that. Fade David.
No problem. Glad I can help.
What's funny is I was leaning Kentucky, and you had made your prognostication a week ago.
Oh, yeah, 2 weeks ago.
I mean,
no.
easy.
Late
You
in the
had
regular
said,
season.
You had said, I'm taking Kentucky.
I'm taking Kentucky.
And I thought you were right, and I'm like, how boring is it if we both take Kentucky? And so as I was, and I don't know if you get this, but like I said, I played in a golf tournament over the weekend, and I started getting on Wednesday when I showed up to play again, who's in your Final Four? I'm like, I don't know. Why would you trust me anyhow? This is worse than doing the weather, because then they want you to help them set their brackets. And if you're wrong, then you take the grief. So I'm getting, well, who's going to be in your Final Four? I'm like, I don't know. And then I had the people walking up to me telling me who's going to win the tournament.
Okay.
Just coming up going, Kentucky's going to win. This team's going to win. That team's going to win. And a buddy of mine before softball practice, he helps coach, and our daughters are friends. He looks at me and goes, Gonzaga. You know what, Jacob?
Why not?
Let's go Gonzaga.
Sure.
You know nothing about basketball.
Right.
I'm going to trust you.
In fact, if you run a company, all right, I want to not only talk to you, but I want to talk to your secretary.
That's it. And so that was my hardcore research. I was going to start crossing, because I was sitting with my wife. I was going to start crossing teams out as people told me who was going to win. I was going to play the Let It Ride game, the great Richard Dreyfuss movie in horse racing there, when he just walks up to all the bums at the track. Who do you like in this one? The 3. Just scratches it off.
But it was a beautiful night. If you're a sports fan, there was a young gentleman in our Twitch chat room, Mark, who at the very beginning of our show said, I had never watched the NCAA tournament before. He's 23 years old. He had never watched the madness.
Where the you been?
And he took it in last night for the first time. So he turned it on last night for the very first time. He saw what it was, one of the 5 biggest upsets in NCAA tournament history, if you factor in seeding, point spread, and just magnitude of the programs. Correct.
As you mentioned earlier, it wasn't Iowa State. It wasn't even Georgetown. It was Kentucky.
Right. The bluest of blue bloods, literally. Down goes Kentucky. 3 hours from home, too. Man, those folks paid for hotels all through the weekend.
Right. Can't get out of that either.
No, I mean, the big debate with them was, well, listen, the second game's going to be on Saturday. Do we check out of the hotel Saturday, do the game, and just go home?
Hell no. We're going to win both games. We're going to party.
I'm just wondering, or do we, let's stay through the weekend. Do we, keep the room for Saturday night also? You had to buy those in a package. I mean, we were joking that, hell, like Kentucky made plans to be one and done. They couldn't have gone home last night if they wanted to. We're figuring that they're scrambling today to get a bus company.
They're Kentucky. They'll get home
No,
today.
I know.
But you're right. They weren't leaving that.
No.
Oh, what a miserable night.
I know, and they had to go back to the hotel room. That's the other thing. Their rooms were paid for. They left all their stuff in their rooms.
Yes, you don't check out before that game.
No, you're staying over.
Yeah, that's tough.
And they're staying in a hotel that's full of Big Blue Nation.
Totally.
Yeah, that's tough.
My favorite is when you're staying in a hotel and there's another team in the hotel, and one team's a winner and the other team's a loser, and them and their fans are all passing each other during those awkward hours.
The Blue Birds were on fuego yesterday because Creighton won too.
They did.
And it's not like if you're a Kentucky fan, you can start yelling at a St. Peter's fan after the game.
Well, no, there were 37 of them there.
It's not like it's Louisville, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Where you can talk smack and, we've got this. No, you just got to walk around and go, what the hell just happened?
See, this is how bad it'll be. I will say, I would love to listen to a little bit of Kentucky.
The Kentucky Radio Network or whatever it is.
I mean, there's a hell of a sports radio network that was put together in Kentucky 20 years ago, and it was sold recently. And the guys that put it together done an amazing job, but obviously they're all into this. I could see their poll question being who had a worse season, Louisville or Kentucky. And you got to remember, Louisville fired their coach and did make the tournament. And all right, and people may still think Louisville had a better season based on how Kentucky's ended.
Miller and Moulton. Text the show. Keyword FSN Radio. You text that to 21,000. And unless you're on Verizon, we respond. I found out what the gig is. This particular system will not let me respond to Verizon customers, but I can respond to everybody else. But regardless, we do read them. We read them on air sometimes. We read them all no matter what. You can watch the show, twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton. Vote on our poll question. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com. Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Okay, I will say, every time I come home, I always take a nap. I didn't take a nap yesterday.
How long do you take a nap for?
At least an hour.
Shouldn't be more than an hour.
It shouldn't be more than an hour. Well, it's always a little power nap. Yesterday,
I'm just telling you, it shouldn't be more than an hour. According to, I literally, my doctor just told me this. If you sleep more than an hour for a nap, it will affect your sleep at night.
Really?
That's what my doctor told me. Because I was talking about the same thing. Because they asked how I was sleeping. I said, I sleep like crap.
I sleep terrible.
I said, I'm also a man over the age of 50. I have to get up in the middle of the night. That's part of life.
Yeah.
Trust me. And, but I always wake up 1 or 2 times a night. It's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, and I said, I got to start taking a nap. She goes, don't do it for more than an hour. Okay.
But yeah, no nap yesterday. Straight basketball, and more basketball. It's going to be the same thing today, baby. Probably going to sleep all day Saturday.
The one thing to remember, though, about Calipari and will he take heat and all that, who's going to replace him? You know, you're going to give that job to a Mick Cronin?
What time do the women play?
2:30.
Is it on?
You.
I will tell you both. You missed out on fabulous corned beef. I did an early round because I had to make sure I'd never made it before.
How'd the bread turn out, by the way?
Rye bread.
See, now I'm hungry. Like yesterday, I felt like crap. Now I
There's
feel good.
leftovers. Don't know if I'm going to give you any, but there's leftovers.
Well, you also, when you have leftovers, you have to have enough for you, if you know what I mean.
There's enough for me.
Okay.
No, I bought 6 pounds of corned beef. Probably after you cook it, it's about 5. You know, when it cooks down
Right.
and what have you. But I was impressed. And I finally got a way to eat cabbage that I like.
Ooh, how so?
A little white wine vinegar on it. A little salt and pepper.
God, I really did miss out.
So, Felipe, I was telling David, I literally, my neighbor's heavily diabetic.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it was like noon. I went to grab my guitar. I was going to sit there and goof around before the game started. And I saw a car and I'm like, oh, Felipe's here. So I wasn't going to grab it because it was like just the front of it looked similar. And then I saw a cop car behind it. I went, oh, so Felipe got pulled over coming into my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then I saw another cop car. Well, my neighbor had an episode.
Right.
Fortunately, everything's okay. But yeah, I'm like, oh, Felipe got arrested in my front yard.
Oh, God. That's funny.
Did it in the Ninja OK music. I'm telling you, the pressure cooker is the lifesaver of all things. It is really tough to F up food in that pressure cooker.
Brittany Griner is just being used as like a
Totally.
like a
Oh,
like a pawn.
if this was a male hockey player that was playing over there, she'd have been out months ago.
Crazy. Insane.
They won't.
Thanks for listening. And now, more of Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Pat Kirwan at the top of the hour. Josh Pastner in roughly an hour. Talk football and college hoops, respectively. What are you smiling about?
Just a funny comment
Okay.
in the Twitch chat room. Nothing that really is relevant to the show. Sometimes
Gotcha.
I laugh at what they say and doesn't need to make it on air.
Okay. Fair enough.
It was just a little shot at Philly. It was a little show. If you don't catch the show on Twitch, sometimes we have conversations, and we had a conversation that wasn't really much for on air. It was something that happened next door to my house yesterday.
Right.
And the person commented. It was funny. That's all.
But Felipe did fall asleep on the air, and we threw it to break, and he was asleep. And about 8 to 10 seconds later, we got his attention, and he threw us to break. So that's another dynamic that's at work on the show today.
He hasn't sat down since.
No.
He's afraid to sit down.
Right.
I might just take out the chair now. No more chair.
I think both lights would be big for you too, as much as you don't like it.
Yeah, it's another one. Yep. Hey, did you guys know that Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson played their first game since 2019, and then the very next game, Steph Curry gets injured?
I thought they said they played 11 minutes together.
Yeah, something like that.
The three of them had played 11 minutes, and Curry gets hurt, and he's out for likely the rest of the regular season.
So they won't play together again until the postseason.
Right, because Thompson was ready at the start of the year. He gets ready. Draymond's out with a back injury. He's out 2.5 months. He comes back. Next game, Curry gets hurt. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, since we had a 15, 2 12s, and an 11 win yesterday, although technically the 11 was a 1-point favorite, but it does bring us to the games today. I mean, come on.
Right off the bat, the first 7-10's a pick 'em. So even if Loyola wins from Vegas' standard, it's not much of an upset.
But I don't know about you. To me, once the upsets start, they continue.
Well, here's the question I have for you, and this is going to be a little inside baseball for a lot of people in our network that aren't in the 239. So just bear with me for a half a second. Jacksonville State's playing Auburn. Jacksonville State is the automatic qualifier from the A-Sun Conference. That shouldn't be there because they lost in the second round of their tournament, and Bellarmine won the A-Sun tournament, but they are ineligible for tournament play because they are just entering Division I. I don't know what shot you give Jacksonville State. You cover FGCU, who plays in that conference. You've seen all of these teams, and it's why I'm asking David, who would have had a better shot at Auburn, Jacksonville State or Bellarmine?
Oh, Bellarmine.
Because they play a quirky style, right? They're a little tougher to play.
And they're like 5 or 6-year seniors. I mean, this was a group that was kept together to handle the transition from D2 to D1. And yeah, Bellarmine, lined it all up for this season, and it worked.
Too bad. That would have been nice. Montana State plays Texas Tech. That's a 3-14. Both those games are in the 15.5 range. Purdue is a 16.5 favorite. I mean, the early games, if we get something, we're going to get a monumental upset early. Because the 12-15 games of pick'em between Loyola and Ohio State, the next 4 games are 15, 15.5, 16.5, and 15.5 as far as point spreads go.
Right. The good games are supposed to be late afternoon. Miami and USC with a 3:10 tip is a 2-point spread. Notre Dame, Alabama, and a 6-11 is a 4-point spread. Alabama, one of the toughest teams to handicap in the tournament. At times this year, they've looked like a Final Four team, and at times this year, they've looked like they'd be a 4 seed in the NIT.
I know it's only 4, but Alabama either covers going away or loses the game outright.
Texas Va-Tech is virtually a pick'em. Texas favored by 1. That's a 4:30 tip and a 6-11 matchup. And then everything else is in the evening.
Chattanooga, Illinois. The early game of the night session, if you will. That'll probably, be a True TV or a TBS or one of those because it's 6:50. And TNT game, actually. I missed, how about guessing 2 of the 3 and guessing the wrong one? But Chattanooga's got a pro. Chattanooga has a couple of really good players. Should be an interesting game. LSU, Iowa State. How's LSU going to come out without the coach?
I think they'll be fine.
For this game?
I think they'll be fine.
Period.
Yeah, I really do. They match up well with Iowa State in terms of style of play and athleticism and all that. I think they should be fine in this one. I really like Va-Tech in a 6-11 against Texas. I really do. And sometimes what you do in a conference tournament doesn't transfer over, a la Iowa. Sometimes what you do in a conference tournament transfers over, a la Richmond. Va-Tech with the run to the ACC final there.
By the way,
championship.
We did get a question asked. What's the point behind the rule for Bellarmine? It's a great question.
All right, here's the point, and I'm serious about this because, as Mark mentioned, I do FGCU games. FGCU went from D2 to D1 about 15 years ago, and so we asked the question. We go, what's the point? And they said the point is that, quite frankly, the D1 schools don't want more D1 schools because what ends up happening, the pie now has to get divvied up a little bit more. So they try to put a little roadblock there, whereas you really need to think about this. Do you want to make the jump to D1? Because we're going to make it hard on you. Because by not being eligible for the ultimate postseason play, and a lot of conferences, if you're not eligible to go to the NCAA tournament, do not even allow you to participate in their conference tournaments. The A-Sun is one of the rare conferences that do. And what does that affect? That affects recruiting. Tough to recruit when you can't promise kids play in an NCAA tournament in their sport, but really tough to recruit if they can't even play in a conference championship. So that's why that is out there. I will say one of the great compromises that was suggested many years ago and is still out there, and I thought the NCAA could have made this ruling quite frankly, in the last week when Bellarmine won the A-Sun is, well, allow them to play, just don't allow them to get any of the money.
They would all do it.
Right. Every school would do it, and then you're not harming any of the other in the field, but also any of the other 360 that are D1. I mean, Bellarmine doesn't get a share, but the kids who earned the right to go to the tournament. But this is why, by the way, like, and we brought this up at the time. Do we think the A-Sun was doing the noble thing, the right thing, by letting Bellarmine actually play in the conference championship? Or were they idiots for letting him play in the conference championship because you're having an ineligible team knock out eligible teams to go to the NCAA tournament? And the A-Sun made the decision nearly 10 years ago. They've done this on 4 or 5 separate occasions in the last 10 years. They've had ineligible teams make it all the way to the finals of their respective conference tournaments. This was the first time one of the ineligibles won.
And you have a 4-year probationary period when you jump from D2 to D1, except for one sport. But that is the reasons behind it. I wanted to get to it because I always think when someone asks a question like that we know the answer to, I think there are others out there that do. So thanks for the question. There's your answer. You're on the 11 seeds before I interrupted you, David, the Vatech who you were riding. And I'm riding both 11s today for what it's worth. I like both Notre Dame and Virginia Tech. For whatever reason, as you said, Alabama is a Jekyll and Hyde team.
Well, I think I'm with you. I think if Alabama wins, they do UNC to Marquette. I think if they win, they beat Notre Dame by 30.
Yeah. If they win, they're going to win going away. It's not going to be close.
Right. And I could see them
losing
by 10 easily. Right.
Just don't know what Alabama team's going to show up.
And if they go to the Elite Eight, it wouldn't surprise you at all. Because their A game's really good. Really good. But I'm one of those that believes when the upsets start in the first round, then they continue for the rest of the way.
Well, usually it's one day of upsets. Usually you get one full day. And we didn't. We got one session.
Right. We got a half a day.
So my guess is this evening we'll get the other one. Hey, if we get it in the early ones, then all hell's broken loose. I mean, to reiterate, of the early games, there's 3 games. Four games with spreads 4 or less, 4 games with spreads 15 or more. So if we get upsets, it's crazy this morning. That means a Jacksonville State, a Montana State, a Yale, or a Delaware has won. And those are 15s and 14s taking on 2s and 3s today. But I know you've talked about it. We've got USC and the Canes. Andy Enfield used to coach FGCU. I know you still talk to Andy. Good team, but they've not played well down the stretch. And Miami just a 2-point dog to see if the Canes can move on to the second round where they would take on Auburn theoretically.
St. Peter's the 10th, 15 to beat a 2. And which we talk about, where does it rank? And obviously UMBC, the only 16 to beat a 1 in the men's tournament. Harvard did it to Stanford in the women's tournament nearly 25 years ago. But these are the 15s that have won. Richmond beat Syracuse in 91. That was
in 91.
Huge.
Syracuse is even bigger than
that.
Well,
remember, they're 2 years, they're only a few years removed from Ronnie Cycli and company being a jumper away from winning the national title. 2 years later, Santa Clara defeats Arizona. Coppin State defeats South Carolina in 97. The one that we referenced earlier, Hampton beat Iowa State in 2001. If you ever see the highlight, the power forward on Hampton picks the coach up and holds him 6 feet up in the air while he moves his arms and legs like a child in celebrating. It is an all-time shot. Lehigh, wasn't that C.J. McCollum?
Yes.
Lehigh beating Duke in 2012. The same tournament, Norfolk State beat Missouri. The next year was FGCU over Georgetown. Remember 6 years ago? Michigan State was the trendy, just like Kentucky pick. Hot going into the tournament, won the Big Ten tournament, upperclassmen galore. Middle Tennessee took out Michigan State in 2016. Last year, Oral Roberts beat the Buckeyes. So if you just go through, Georgetown, Michigan State, Ohio State with the big name, but not the basketball program that they are in football.
The
Missouri,
Cuse.
Duke, obviously.
The Cuse.
Cuse, Iowa State, South Carolina. Remember, Arizona in 93. Lute hadn't broken through and won the title yet. He did it 4 years later, but they went to a Final Four twice in the 80s.
But it wasn't Kentucky.
No. St. Peter's, a courtside season ticket to St. Peter's Peacock basketball, $250.
A courtside seat to any Kentucky game.
Over $300.
There you have it. That's just face value.
Who did Michigan State lose to in 2016 again?
Middle Tennessee State.
Tennessee State. Yeah. And Middle Tennessee controlled the whole game.
From the word go.
I think that was probably one of the more impressive ones just because that was a really good Michigan State team.
And it was 90-81. Remember, it was up tempo. I mean, they didn't take the air out of the ball or anything like that. They rolled the balls out and beat the Big Ten champion.
Well, and that's what St. Peter's largely did last night.
Although they were down 6 with a little over 4 minutes to go.
But from a pace standpoint,
totally.
they never tried to say, let's take every shot with 5 seconds left on the clock. They ran their offense. When the shot was there, they took the shot.
But, some of the Missouri, Iowa State, South Carolina, yeah, okay, they had their moments in time, this, that, and the other thing, but you don't think of them as a powerhouse. It's a top 5er, baby.
Oh, yes.
It could be a top 3er.
Which 3 of those? I mean, obviously UMBC's one. You find 3 on that list you gave me that are better than last night.
Well, I think, quite frankly, is it Lehigh over? Because also you got to consider the blue blood factor.
Right.
Lehigh versus Duke, St. Peter's versus Kentucky.
They're in the same damn ballpark.
Duke not that far removed, I think, from winning the title in 2012. So I think they'd beaten Butler like only a year or two before.
Yeah, 2010 is when they beat Butler.
Yeah.
We will switch gears and talk a little National Football League with Pat Kirwan coming up on the other side.
Is there anything going on?
Not a damn thing.
Okay.
Miller and Moulton. We'll figure out what's happening in the NFL from Pat Kirwan next on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free
14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Getting huge ratings with their morning show on 106.3 if they do the right thing. Gina coming back on the air after 3 years off should kill it.
I agree.
If they spend any money to do it. Maybe they took that $20,000 they're going to spend on us and did it for her. Yeah, beast mode. Yep, he did. You are correct, sir.
Asking for a friend. Is Philly gonna make any moves, or are they just way over the cap? Do they have cap room?
What are you talking about? The Eagles?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a decent amount of room.
Are they gonna make moves?
Well, they've made a few.
Oh, that's not good.
Remember, they have 3 first-round picks they have to sign.
That's true.
They need a little bit of money heading into the draft.
Before we get to Pat, I'm not going to necessarily answer it. We got to do how to listen to the show online, the iHeartRadio app, just because someone asked, how do you listen online? And I can't answer it. So it must be a Verizon customer because I cannot.
Okay.
Wait, how do you listen online? Just
Yes.
Twitch.
I understand that, but I can't answer them because they're a Verizon. I can't answer Verizon people with a text.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've heard Florida for Claude Giroux as the leader in the clubhouse. Who was in Colorado, I think, was the one.
What was the FGCU point spread?
13 and a half.
No, I can't answer that person. Everybody's got a Verizon phone. God dang. That bothers me.
You can't beast mode. I can't text the show either. Okay.
How do you mean you can't text the
I don't
show?
know.
You should be able to text the show. It's just I can't. You've tried to text. Here, I'm going to put it right in. I'm not even going to tell them. You text. That's what you have to do. You have to text those letters, FSN Radio, to that number. Don't ask me why, Steve. It's something with the system that we use. Verizon is the only company that will not accept however this system works. I cannot text a Verizon phone. That's what I was told. What happens when you try to text it, beast mode?
We're back in 20. I'm calling Pat now.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. We've talked a lot of hoops this morning, also a little bit of football. We will talk a lot of bit of football right now with one Pat Kirwan. He of Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons on NFL radio. Pat, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. We're in the middle of insanity here. Usually on Friday mornings, I try to kind of get an overview of what we've done in the first week. And a little disturbing if you're a player. We have 105 one-year deals, which means basically all those guys will be back in this pool again next year, which is why the pool will be just a buyer's market. 105. We have 53-year deals, 52 two-year deals. So literally the one-year deals outpace those combined. And only one 6-year deal and 7-5. So it's really about, and it's early. We're just starting this. And we've got hundreds of players left, and I would say 90% of them, if they get a contract at all, will be a one-year deal, and they'll be back in free agency. So the excuse of last year was, oh, it's COVID, and we lost some cap space, but we're right back to doing what we want to do. I mean, the league does, and then we get stuck with these kind of things, and it's tough on the players, really. So that's where I'm headed all day today. And I am looking at this, though, David, because we talked about this 2 weeks ago. The AFC started off with the most cap space by far compared to the NFC, and the signings pretty much holding up that way. 142 transactions in the AFC and 103 in the NFC. So they're buying guys, and we all know the names. Think of the guys that went to the AFC: Russell Wilson, Von Miller, Khalil Mack, Devontae Adams, Sheriff, Gregory, on and on. So AFC is stocking up on NFC players.
If you're an NFC team right now, I mean, you see the Rams making moves again already, but boy, oh boy, Pat, we've gone through these disparities in time. It happens over and over again, but it seems like there's a real strong opportunity for the strong teams in the NFC right now.
Well, the prices have come down. That's why I start with one-year deals. And let's use the Packers for a minute. So Devontae is gone, a great player, but you could go out for what you're going to pay him. You could probably sign Juju Smith-Schuster, Jarvis Landry, and Odell Beckham. You probably could get at least 3 players that have real talent, and then deal with it accordingly. So you can do that if you care to. And I think those opportunities, to your point, Mark, the NFC guys are going to be all over the place like that. If you want running back, how about Melvin Gordon, Leonard Fournette, the Gio Bernard, Philip Lindsay? There's a lot of Sony Michel. So yes, there's a lot of bargains out there. And I think losing Devontae is hard, but I do think you could replace one great player with 3 good players with a quarterback that knows how to throw the ball.
He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chains, weekday afternoons. Pat brought to you courtesy of Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Did the Packers get enough for Devontae?
Well, in a sense, you have to say yes, because I think they reached the conclusion that signability wasn't going to happen. He was going to force them to play in the tag. I mean, I believe the reports are true. I'll get some confirmation sometime today, hopefully, that they did have more on the table. So I always go back to Carolina and Josh Norman. When Gettleman came to the conclusion, he's not going to sign with us, and I'm stuck with a guy on a franchise tag, which tells me that Adams is going to play out the tags and then go play with his buddy Carr. So if that's the case, then what you get now is the best you're going to get. So in that sense, if signability wasn't an issue, then I'd say, they could have got more, but signability is a big piece of the equation.
Pat, we know you're close with Kevin Stefanski, and I've been a guy who has probably defended Baker more than I should have. I just always thought I liked the cockiness. I thought that we all know he played injured, so I was willing to look past some of the other things, but the little "I'm a baby going to take my ball and cry" letter bothered me a little bit, and then the demanding for a trade made me think that I'm way off here. What the hell is going on with Baker Mayfield?
I think all of it was going to be fine until the report came out they wanted an adult. I mean, that took a shot right between his eyes, and I don't know if any of us would be able to accept that nationally with the whole country listening, and then ask him to be calm and collected about it. Now, we all know Matt Ryan's sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen, but Matt Ryan's made millions and millions of dollars. He's not worried about his contract. This is a kid in his option year with nothing behind it, and he's being told, I think if they just kept it to, if we get to Sean Watson, we're going to move you, nothing was going to be said. But once they got into that, they're looking for an adult at the position, that took on a life of its own as related to the guy defending himself. To your point about defending him, I don't blame you at all for that. Think about more Cleveland fans call my show defending Baker Mayfield than attacking him. We had guys telling me that 70% of the people in a poll in Cleveland didn't want Deshaun Watson. They wanted to ride with Baker. Now, I don't know how accurate that is, but guys have told me that. And every caller that called our show yesterday was defending Baker, saying, since Bernie Kosar, we haven't had anybody we liked. This guy has a winning record in the division, that is 12-11, and they felt like he's kind of their kind of guy. So here's what I really think. They wanted to give him this year without, threatening to fire him or anything else. So it's kind of interesting in Cleveland how they felt about Baker. And, hey, he still might be their quarterback. Just because you demand a trade doesn't mean you're going to get one. So we'll see where it goes from here. But he gets a lot of people in the national media calling him immature baby, and I get it. Fun to do it because we all like to call someone else immature instead of ourselves.
Well, I don't think Baker's got hand here. I really don't, even though you go, well, who are they going to play a quarterback besides Baker Mayfield? First off, I think the Browns think that they can win games with Case Keenum. Now, I don't know how many games they can win in January with Case Keenum, but Case Keenum did take the Vikings to the NFC Championship game. And I think with that offense that they believe that just solid, steady play can win a bunch of games in Cleveland. But Pat, also, doesn't Baker have to show up for camp and keep his mouth shut in play because he's auditioning also for 10 other teams in the league?
Absolutely. He will show up and he'll play really hard because at the end of the day, if his agent's any good, his agent's going to say to him, this is your audition for a big deal somewhere else. They're not going to franchise tag you, so play great. And I'll be shopping you all year to people. And every time you have a good game, I'll call a GM and start talking about why you could be the right guy for them. So, yeah, he might be going the way of Mariota, Winston. It's happened before, those kind of guys. Top picks in the draft, option year, and then after that, say goodbye. But, I was talking to Jim yesterday, and it's fun talking to a guy who's a quarterback who bounced around the league, and ask yourself, well, how many quarterbacks have this kind of pressure on him? Wentz is on his third team, pressure all over the place. Trubisky's going to have a ton of pressure on him now that he's in Pittsburgh. Kyler Murray's already mounting pressure. Daniel Jones has pressure all over him. Sam Darnold has pressure all over him. So join the club, Vic, and just be better than those guys. You'll get a job.
Well, one guy that may have pressure at some point is Justin Fields, and we got a question earlier in the show. Say, do you think the Bears are going to make any moves for a receiver? God, I sure hope so, because they have none. You just speaking of, I know you know, but Jim's close to that Bears organization. They've not done much yet, and they lost Allen Robinson. At some point, they're going to have to find some of these receivers we've been talking about.
Yeah, they didn't lose Allen Robinson. They had no intention of bringing him back, so that was like, take it easy. And if you watched them last year, and David, I'm sure, covered them a couple of times, as they like to say, they phased him out of the offense. And I like Allen. I think the question about Allen Robinson was foot speed. That has nothing to do with character. He's a classy guy. As one guy said to me who coached him, someday he's going to be a front office executive. So they just let that one go. But as I listed those receivers before, if you don't think you can run anymore, you can go get Jarvis Landry. You can get any of these guys, Juju. If you want to take a one-year shot like a lot of guys do, go get Sammy Watkins if you think he's going to be healthy. Pringle just signed, so he's gone. And the draft, they had 14 guys at the combine break 4.4. So there's plenty of speed. And Mooney is a good example of what happens if you're smart in the draft and don't go crazy thinking you have to take a first rounder all the time. So I would say the draft could answer that problem for him, and a couple of guys in free agency that are still there, not named Julio Jones, would be the kind of guys that could get you through this. But they had no intention of bringing it back out.
If you want to listen to the show and you're trying to find us other than terrestrial radio, the iHeartRadio app, the ESPN Southwest Florida app, all ways to listen to Miller and Moulton. More with Pat Kirwan coming up on the other side. On what else? Miller and Moulton right here, the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, the Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, the Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with the Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Pat, you back in town?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been here since whatever that last thing was at the combine. And
That's what I figured.
And then I've been playing golf. I had a lot of friends came down from the north. One couple just left. They were here for 5 days. Another group's coming in here tomorrow. So it's been fun. It's the kind of time of year that I like seeing people. But the owners' meetings are a week from Sunday. I got to drive over to Palm Beach for those. That's just a couple of days. But it's fun.
When are the owners' meetings? Do you know the dates? Are they still in March?
What?
The owners' meetings.
Yeah, the 28th. We're doing broadcasts the 28th, 29th, and 30th. I think.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday,
Literally the next weekend, I'm going to be in Palm Beach. That's why I asked.
Yeah. Well, if you were around then, you could have come on over and hung out with us and meet some of these knuckleheads. But everything's good. I mean, I love this time of year. The weather's great.
Oh,
Fun. I just got a little golfed out. I'm kind of like, I don't feel like playing. And I'm not going to play till next Tuesday, so I got work to do here. But I think I might try to fish, though, tomorrow because the wind's really flat now. Everything's down. My buddy called me and said, hey, tomorrow's a good day. Winds are 4 miles an hour. Let's go. So I got 2 guys that live here that like to fish. And I said, you guys want to go? Now's the time. Because who knows? I don't go anymore when it's windy and rough.
it's been terrible.
Miles. It's been really bad. So the window of opportunity looks open for a day. So I'm going to take it, I think.
Pat, do you have a dog in the race in March Madness?
He doesn't care.
Yeah, I'm in a big pool with Brad Childress and a bunch of guys. And my
that's
brothers.
right. This is your auction one, right?
Yeah, we have $1,600 in it. So the winner takes $800. It's whoever has the real winner, and then $800 goes to the guy who had the most wins during the tournament. So I got 4 teams that came through yesterday. That's good. Tennessee, Providence, Baylor, and UCLA. I'm sure I'm not going to hold on to more than 1 or 2 of those right now, but it was nice seeing Kentucky go down because that gives me a chance with Baylor and UCLA over there. St. Peter's is not going to keep going.
You'll never guess who had Kentucky winning the whole thing.
David?
Here you go.
Bingo.
You know what? I would only guess because Mark just really enjoyed zinging you. And Dave, you didn't jump up and say anything, so I had to guess you.
Well, the funny part was he picked Iowa to go to the Final Four. They get beat. He sends out a tweet ripping the coach because he said on the air, he goes, one more time. I trust Fan McCann. This is it.
I
This
hate
last
the coach,
chance.
and the program always disappoints in the tournament. All right, quite frankly, they're the Kansas City Chiefs before Mahomes is really what Iowa is. And so sure enough, they did it again.
Well, I have two teams that fit that category. One of them's not even in the tournament this year. That's Syracuse. I would never take them. And my brother, how about this? My brother, who loves to fish, is not going to fish so he can watch Illinois play. I go, Jimmy, you went there, you played there. They're the biggest choke artists of the tournament on a decade basis. I would never take them, but he's going to sit and watch them play.
And they might lose today.
They play in the Mocs.
So.
Yeah, they play Chattanooga.
Yeah.
They play a team that's got a transfer from Kansas who's an NBA player. They've got one other really good player. I mean, Illinois is playing a team with two men, which you don't usually, when you're playing Chattanooga, you're usually not playing against two men, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I got Chattanooga, so if they beat Illinois, I may not stop laughing. But I feel for David. My friend Steve that I fish with, he had Kentucky. And it's not just losing. They lost to St. Peter's.
Right.
If you drove, now you're a Jersey guy, David. If you drove through where they are over there, you would not even recognize it as a campus.
Exactly.
30 seconds.
Just a bunch of buildings.
Right. It makes Seton Hall look glamorous. I mean.
Yeah. A Taj Mahal.
Right.
All right.
You know what the Jersey guys are like with St. Peter's winning. There's a lot of beer going on there.
Oh, man.
Oh, that coach is going to get a job.
Yes.
Coming back soon.
You got paid. All right, here we go, guys.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
More with Pat Kirwan of NFL Radio. Weekday afternoons, he co-hosts Moving the Chains with Jim Miller. He joins us twice a week throughout the season, courtesy of Pinchers, from Tampa to Key West and many points in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. Pat, don't know if you saw, it's coming out this morning. Logan Ryan, who was a surprise cut by the Giants late yesterday, has already signed with Tampa Bay. They lost Whitehead to the Jets in free agency. So, Woods, apparently the Rams are going to re-sign Odell and send Robert Woods packing. I mean, Pat, this league has come around to my way of thinking, man. I mean, this is fantasy football, only in reality.
No, it's not. This is a Christmas present. We ought to wrap it up and hand it to you because this is what you dreamed about. It's more volatile than ever. Let's see if the Rams have enough space when it's all said and done. They probably will. But the Giants letting guys go. I think Kansas City, the Giants, those teams still have to dump out some guys, and I think we'll see a few more releases. And some trades. The trading business is kind of exciting, David. That's really what you love the most, the trade.
Yes.
What do we have so far? 13, 14 trades? I haven't counted them up yet.
Well, when you get a proven commodity for an unknown commodity in a pick, I think you should make those deals more times than not. Mark, what's interesting about them getting rid of the Giants, Logan Ryan, a Jersey guy, really wanted to play for him, but also they saved less than $1 million on the cap by releasing him. It was not releasing Bradbury, who they would have saved $20 million. They released a guy they saved $750,000. So it was an interesting move, right?
Well, and here's the other thing, Pat. Help me out here because there's a couple of sites that I go to try to study the cap stuff, and I by no means feel like I know what I'm doing even when I'm on it. But both sites that I trust for this still have the Rams, Chiefs, and Giants as over the cap. I didn't think that was possible. Can you just help me with that?
Yeah, you can't be over the cap, and I know the sites you look at. If I go back inside those rosters and take a hard look at them, and they like to tell you that it's the top 51, but they might be counting everybody in that. So you're never allowed over the cap. So ignore that. But they're not in great shape that way. And they're probably counting some things that aren't going to be counted here in a few days. We'll see where it goes. But, yeah, the Giants, they got to still move around players. I spend more time now looking who's got dead cap space and who's carrying a heavy load. And when you see that, you start to realize that the Chicago Bears, They have almost $49 million of dead cap space. Well, it's okay if you're a championship team and you had to get rid of some older guys with big contracts. But the Chicago Bears, what are they doing with all that dead cap space? That's the stuff that interests me more.
Well, speaking of that, then, okay, if Deshaun Watson ends up with Atlanta, how the hell are the Atlanta Falcons going to move on from Matt Ryan? Speaking of dead cap space, because from the looks of it, he's going to hurt them more by cutting him than keeping him.
Well, I think the last parachute of credit cards. The first one, of course, is just signing bonus. They're not going to do it with that because that doesn't serve the purpose here. But June 1st, when you can take the debt and split it into a 2-year debt issue, they'll absolutely do that. So it'd be interesting to think where he's going to go. Is he part of the trade to Houston? I don't know about that. If he's not part of the trade, who wants to take on his contract that would think he's the perfect guy to have? Is he the next Colts quarterback? I say that because Matt Ryan has been awfully calm and agreeable during this period. He pushed back his roster bonus from today till Tuesday in order to give Atlanta a fighting chance to get Deshaun Watson. There's plenty of guys who said, nah, I'm not doing that. Just give me my money. And he did that. And he's been very calm and not complaining or anything else. So that always tells me he's got a deal somewhere. He knows where he's going if this happens. That'd be my guess.
Well, Pat, you mentioned the team that I wanted to go to, which is the Colts. And I know their fan base is one of the calmer, nicer fan bases in the league. But they underachieved last year. They've arguably underachieved here recently, despite having a roster and salary cap space that is the envy of a lot of organizations. And they're watching the rest of the conference that they're in go bat blank crazy in acquiring talent. When are the Colts going to get a quarterback and some wide receivers?
I worry about the quarterback part, but I don't worry about the receiver part. As I've said, between the draft and the remaining free agents, they can resolve that. The quarterback thing, I mean, there was some assumptions that, Garoppolo's on his way. I don't know that that's to be true yet. I had someone not from the Colts tell me yesterday, they called me and said, hey, what do you think of Jameis Winston? And I go, okay, we're up to that conversation in the first week of free agency. So I don't know where they're going to go. They have the cap space to take on things. Let's use the Saints for a minute. As they're in the deep hunt for our friend over here, Watson, we all know what Mickey's going to do. He's going to give him a $34 million signing bonus, and he's going to give him a $1 million salary, something like that, and then he's going to fit him in. He'll end up being like a $13 million cap charge this year, and he'll squeeze him in there, which works. Everyone thinks it's like he's a genius and no one else knows how to do it. A lot of guys won't do those things because if that guy gets hurt and had a career-ending injury or, God forbid, something bad happened, he's leveraged the future at almost every position on his roster. Now, the Colts haven't done that, so they have the space to handle it, who they can get. But if it's not Matt Ryan, I don't think it's going to be Baker Mayfield. It has to be Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what I think they're down to. I don't think they're going to tell their fan base, because you're right, David. You described they get close and tease everybody, and then they can't close it. That's why Wentz is gone. Well, who are you bringing in to tell your fan base? And you did start with the right thing. They're a very polite fan base. They're the kind of fans, and this is not a negative. I wish I worked for a team that had fans like this, but I'm sure David remembers what New York fans are like. The reality is they'll cheer for whoever you bring in there. Oh, let's give him a chance. You know what? He's a good-looking guy. It'll be one of those places. But who else is there except the three I just named?
Well, I'm telling you, I'm the only person who thinks this, Pat, but I believe the Vikings adding a year on to Cousins actually makes him more tradable, because now you're not just
on the air. You're not the first to say it, but I'm glad you said it. To me, he became a much more tradable guy. The way it's set up, they kind of took some cap relief on it. got an extra year, so whoever traded for him wouldn't have to negotiate right away. I'm with you. I think he's more tradable now. Didn't he take a no trade clause though?
I didn't hear that.
Yep, he took a no trade. Doesn't mean he wouldn't go to the Colts, but I believe he took a no trade clause with the second year.
You know, Pat, you mentioned on Tuesday, you started talking about Carolina's now out of the Deshaun sweepstakes. So it's a miss for Matt Rule, which means he signed to Warren Sharp put out a tweet late last night. Signed Teddy Bridgewater, 3 years, $63 million. Traded for Sam Darnold, lost a second, a fourth, and a sixth. Traded Teddy away for a sixth. Put the fifth-year option on Darnold, and is now, signed Newton, signed Matt Barkley, and cut Barkley and bench Newton. I mean, this has not gone well. He keeps trying for quarterbacks, which you have to respect the effort. But how much trouble is Rule in Carolina right now? Because who are they going to get to play quarterback this year? Is it Darnold again?
Right now it's Darnold, which is what I was talking before about pressure, quarterbacks under pressure. So I'm with you on putting the spotlight on Matt Rule, but don't you guys kind of think the owner thinks he knows what he's doing and he's deeply involved in these decisions, and now he's finding out he doesn't really know how to do it yet? That's what I think's going on there.
Well, he better get it together quickly because 6-year contracts can become 3-year contracts very quickly. And when you're old, when you've got enough money to buy an NFL team, you got enough money to pay a coach to go away.
Well, I think he will go away. I'll be honest with you. And I think he's going to be tickled to take his money and leave and then go coach college football where his passion probably is. Look, these guys, how many of them crossed the line from college to pro? He was really never a pro coach. He spent a year with the Giants as an assistant line coach or something. Come on. That you don't learn anything about the NFL when all you're doing is making sure that the rookie guard knows how to line up.
Yeah, everybody seems to forget your buddy coached in the NFL before he went to USC. I mean, everybody goes Pete Carroll, but he was an NFL head coach before that. And everybody keeps pointing that way. It's
on multiple teams.
Right.
He's a pro coach that dabbled in college football.
Correct.
And understood how to recruit. These other guys are college guys. And so if I'm Matt Rule, you can let me go now if you want. I'm tired of trying to do this job. And the owner is going to be a problem for anybody. And he's got a lot of money, but he's figuring it out. It's going to take a while for him to understand how to own. He just doesn't get that part yet.
Pat, finally, Jacksonville and Miami have both made a lot of moves. Jacksonville's made the big splashy ones, which is usually what the Dolphins have done. And the Dolphins have made a lot of Patriot-like moves, to be quite honest with you. A lot of players, one-year deals on the cheap. Your quick thoughts about what Jacksonville and Miami have done?
Well, Jacksonville's proving even if you have a lousy record, the players will come. You pay them the right way, they'll come. Did they really overpay anybody? Brandon Sheriff's a good player. When you got him, I think you started to see people interested. So I admire what they're doing down there. Remember when they said, let's get rid of the GM? Well, they didn't get rid of the GM. The guy knows how to get players, and he knows how to evaluate them. So they're fine. Miami, to me, is filling in the back end of their roster with what they're doing. 1-year deal, 2-year deals, guys that compete. Maybe you're getting some competition, but they got to hit it in the draft now. They need a pass rusher. I think they need a big elite tackle to go along with what they have. So I think they're a little behind on quality players, but we still have guys out there like Teron Armstead that could help them. And I still don't know for sure what the heck's going on with Za'Darius. We all thought he was heading to Baltimore on a 4-year deal, but that hasn't taken place yet. So they can still help themselves in free agency. It's not a dead issue, but I think they're getting closer to being a team that needs the draft to come perfectly lined up for them.
Yeah, curious where La'el Collins ends up as well. Pat, appreciate your time and your insight. Have a great weekend, whether it's golf, whether it's fishing, whether it's watching hoops, and we'll do this again next week.
I appreciate the offer. You know what I think I might watch and not watch? I don't think I'm going to watch any players on tape this weekend. I'm taking a weekend off of watching.
Wow. News on Miller and Moulton.
Man, That's bigger than
I'm
the
telling- I'm
Devontae
telling both
Adams
of you
trade.
I'm telling you both that. So on Tuesday, I can ask you the question. So, fellas,
Works for me. I'm buying drinks this weekend if that's the case, Pat. Have a good one.
be good, fellas.
At Kirwan, NFL Radio, moving the chains weekday afternoons with Jim Miller. And he joins the show twice a week, 9 months out of the year, courtesy of Pinchers. From Tampa to Key West and many points in between, Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. He's coached in the tournament. He's won games in the tournament. He's the current head coach of Georgia Tech. He's Josh Pastner. We'll talk the madness next on Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. And use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
That's funny. Fuck is. Guess who's here already?
Oh, you just got to work.
I was about to tell you yesterday. Chris is telling Felipe what he's got to do next week. I about to tell Felipe, tell him to fuck off. What you have to do is get us out and off the air. Don't worry about any of their shit. Doesn't matter. Unless they're going to pay you to board up their station too.
Well, what was he saying to him?
Oh, just about a backup and we go to hard breaks to make sure you watch our thing. No. The answer to that's no. Unless you're paying him, run your station. Couldn't be more serious about that. All right, I got to figure out what I'm going to do.
Yeah, Canada relief. I didn't hear that. I heard that Devontae said clearly to the Packers last year he wanted to be the highest paid receiver in football. The Packers had a different definition of what that was than Devontae.
Well, Canada relief, that's not, you may be reading that, but that was not the case. He had told Aaron that he wasn't playing for the Packers anymore, that money wasn't close.
Josh is on hold. We're back in 10.
Just for what it's worth.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Friday edition here on the Florida Sports Network. He's been a friend of the show for a long time. He's the men's basketball coach at Georgia Tech. He's Josh Pastner. You can follow him on Twitter at GT Josh Pastner. Josh, it's David and Mark once again. How are you?
I'm doing well, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I'd prefer to be talking about the NC2A tournament with Georgia Tech in it.
Right.
But we'll have to wait a year for that. And but still a lot of great basketball to talk about, the ACC, some great games the last couple days, and then a good slate of games today.
Well, and obviously you got to start out with the big one, Coach. Last night, St. Peter's beats Kentucky. Just your thoughts about the game, your thoughts about the head coach from St. Peter's. He seemed so calm in what was such a big moment. And, you know, we outside of UMBC beating Virginia a few years ago, we think this might be the number 2 upset in tournament history, considering that it wasn't just a 15 against a 2. It was a 15 against a 2 that was Kentucky, Coach.
Yeah, well, a couple things. What I would say is this is number one is the game has changed because even if you look at St. Peter's, and first of all, Shaheen Holloway has obviously did an incredible job last night, and he's a great coach and a great guy, but the game has changed. I mean, there's just good players wherever you go, and it doesn't matter what team, what level, what league. It's just the parity amongst everyone in this day and age has totally changed. That's one. Two is that's what makes the NCAA tournament such a great watch. Whereas unlike the NBA, where in the NBA, not that the NBA is not a great watch, but it's a 7-game series, so you can have an off night, you can have a bad game, and still recover and still win in advance. Whereas in the NCAA, it's not like that. It's a, hey, look, you have an off night and you're dealing with 18 to 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds, and there's just an off night and you lose the game, your season's over abruptly like that. And as well as St. Peter's played last night, you know, Kentucky was an active participant in the loss. Because they didn't play other than the big kid Oscar, you know, Kentucky didn't play well. And, you know, people have talked about not being able to win with one-and-done guys. Well, Kentucky had an experienced team. They didn't have one-and-dones on their team.
Right.
This is an experienced team. It just happened to be Kentucky. Kentucky was just, they as I mentioned, they were an active participant in the loss by meaning that they didn't play well. They were not good, and St. Peter's, maybe played the best game of their season. And when those two things collide, it really doesn't matter because it's not a college team playing a pro team. It's two college teams, two teams with kids, with young guys the same age. And if the team has an off night and Kentucky had an off night, they were not good, and St. Peter's was good. That's what ends up happening. And so, and for Kentucky, their season ends abruptly, and for St. Peter's, they're a game away from going to Sweet 16. Now, the team that played St. Peter's, Murray State, who had a great year, who beat San Francisco in overtime last night, they're probably thinking there, man, we've got a gift in a sense. We got a chance to play St. Peter's to win that game to go to the Sweet 16. It sure beats having to play Kentucky to go to the Sweet 16. And sometimes to be able to get to the Sweet 16, especially for based on certain situations, a lot of it comes down to matchups and teams and everything else, and you got to get a little lucky. And Murray State's got an opportunity to go to the Sweet 16 by beating St. Peter's.
All right, let's stick then in the ACC because obviously you've seen these teams this year. First off, what you're seeing from North Carolina now, is this just a case of, hey, come on, it's Carolina, they've got good players, and kids sometimes improve throughout the year because last couple of weeks they've been playing really well?
Well, I had said this, and I got a lot of flack about this. I had said this after they played us at their spot. I said they're good enough to win the national championship. This was back in January. I thought they were really good. I think they are really, really talented. And I said that. They crushed us. And I thought we played well, but they were really, really good. I said, man, they're good enough to win the national championship. They play like this. Well, the next two games after they played us, they lost by 30 at Miami and 30 at Wake. And so everyone's, getting on me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? And so they've been inconsistent. However, I will tell you, how they played at Duke. They were at that final game. They were terrific. I knew how they played against us. They've had some other great wins. Their starting five is as good as any starting five in America. And I'm telling you, their starting five is good enough to win the national championship. They have five good enough players that anytime they step on the floor, their five is better than Baylor's five tomorrow. Their five is better than anyone else's five in that region. Now, it's maybe not as deep as some other teams, and they don't play a lot of guys. They really play about 6 or 7 guys, but their starting five is as good as any starting five, and that includes Gonzaga and anybody else. It's just how consistent have they been? They've been inconsistent, and they're not real deep. But their starting five, if they can, stay healthy and play a lot of minutes and be hitting on all cylinders. I mean, they crushed Marquette yesterday. It wasn't even a game. They crushed them. And all everyone was talking about is how bad the ACC is and how great the Big East is. It wasn't even a basketball game. And I knew how good North Carolina is. So I just think it's one of those things where Carolina could end up in New Orleans in the Final Four, and they could end up winning the national championship because their starting five is as good as anyone that they play. And that's what makes them a really dangerous team. They've got size, they've got guard play, they've got shooting, they've got quickness. And it just, it really depends if they're being consistent or not. And last night or yesterday afternoon, they were really consistent.
Well, a bunch of afternoon games featuring ACC teams today. Let's get into them. Miami takes on USC. Miami's a slight underdog in the game. They've been inconsistent as well. Talk to me about the Canes and how you like their chances today against USC.
Yeah, we played Miami twice. We played USC back in December. USC's a really big team. They are big. They're tall. In their front court, they're big. Miami's not a big team, but they've got great guards. They're fast. They're quick. They will have to use their speed to their advantage and not let it become a half-court game. If it's a half-court game, advantage USC. If Miami's able to turn them over and play in the transition game, advantage Miami. The quickness for the guards of Miami is is their advantage. The size of USC is the advantage for USC. So it becomes a deal of, a contrasting styles in a sense, but it's going to be a good basketball game. And it really comes down to whoever imposes their will, whether that's USC's with their size or Miami's with their quickness.
Notre Dame taking on Alabama, Virginia Tech taking on Texas. So the ACC schools are 11s in a 6-11 matchup. Your thoughts on either one of them?
I think the Texas game, I think the Texas Virginia Tech game is the best game of the first game of the tournament. And I said that. Now, obviously, there have been other really good games. I'm saying in terms of evenly matched. I mean, these two teams are really good. They are both of them are really well coached, and so I think both teams are good. I really do. I think both teams are good. And I think it's a great game. I think obviously Virginia Tech won the ACC championship. They've got great shooting. They're one of the best, if not the best, 3-point shooting team in all of college basketball. Both teams are really good defensively. I think that's going to be a great game, just a high level basketball game. And then you move to the Notre Dame game versus Alabama. I think Notre Dame had a great game versus Rutgers. And Notre Dame's a dangerous team because of the way they shoot the ball as well, too. They got guys who can really shoot it. Alabama is extremely athletic. They play downhill. But Notre Dame is they play a slower brand of basketball, and Alabama tries to play a higher possession. So that's going to be a big that's going to be a big deal for both teams on the contrasting styles, where Notre Dame has, the thought process of, they can shoot the ball. They got great shooters, but they want to keep the game in a lower possession game. And Alabama, they do have good shooters as well, and they live and die by the 3-point shot. They want to have great higher possession game, playing downhill at all times, really fast, shorter on the shot clock. Notre Dame likes to use the shot clock, so it'll be a good game for both teams based on contrasting styles.
Look, Duke shouldn't have any problems today, but as far as a run from Duke, they give up a lot of points. Do you worry about how their defense is to make a deep, deep run in the tournament?
I think Duke, I don't see Duke getting past the Sweet 16. I think they'll win today. I think they could either lose Sunday or following week. I don't see them getting past the Sweet 16. I think there's so much pressure on those guys. Those young guys they're talented, but the pressure, you could see it building in that final game with Coach K at home versus North Carolina, and then obviously the ACC championship. I just think because they know that anytime they lose, it's Coach K's, final. It's the finality of his career, and so and they haven't been defending as well as in some areas lately, but they are very talented. But I don't see them getting past. They win today, but I don't think they get past Sunday and or the following week. Look, I would love for them to win the national championship because it'd be great for the ACC. I think it'd be really cool for Coach K, but I'm not sure if they're going to get past the Sweet 16. I think there's a lot of pressure on those young guys with what's at stake for Coach K, and I think they feel it.
And a final one from me, Coach. Just how difficult, or is it maybe a little overblown by us in the media, Will Wade being fired in between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament? How difficult could you imagine that's going to be for the kids? Or do you think that, listen, they've been around the rest of the coaches all year, kids are resilient, they'll be fine? Your gut feeling, obviously not being there, as to how the LSU players will respond?
LSU is extremely talented. With the time they let Coach Wade go compared to the time they play today, there's been a lot of time in between, if that makes sense. And there's enough time to be able to, have the new coach. I think it's Coach Kevin Nickelberry is the new coach there right now. Be able to adjust and kind of have his voice be there. I think it gives the players, the student athletes, a chance to adjust. But if it happened yesterday or Wednesday, maybe that it might have been like, wait a second, what's going on? But there's been enough time. LSU's really good. I mean, it would not surprise me to see them in the Sweet 16. They're a good team. And it's happened before, if you remember, back with Steve Fisher.
Sure.
Won the national championship when they let go Bill Frieder right before the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And he ended up winning 6 games, and they won the national championship. Michigan, they beat Seton Hall in the championship.
Yep. Bo's famous quote, I want a Michigan man coaching a Michigan team. He's an Arizona State man. That's why I made the move. Coach, listen, if we don't talk between now and then, hopefully we can talk and see one another in the Fort Myers tip-off when you and 3 other teams make your way down in November. You've always been good to us, and hopefully our paths can cross then.
Absolutely. You need me on any time during the tournament, don't hesitate, and I really appreciate it. And should be some great games today. Great time of the year. It really is. It's just some fantastic games. And what you see for your listeners out there, what you see in college basketball, what makes college basketball really unique is, and as it continues to move forward, is just the parity amongst everybody. There's so many good players out there. It's no longer what it was like in the 90s, early 2000s, where everyone's the top teams are just getting the best players. It is the talent is spread out because you can go to the NBA from any program. You can reach the Final Four from any program, and you can be seen on TV from any program. So you don't have to go to those power schools anymore. You can go wherever you want, and that's what makes college basketball great, is the parity amongst everybody.
Josh Pastner, thanks so much for your time, Coach, and best of luck. Josh Pastner, men's basketball coach at Georgia Tech, joining us once again here on Miller and Moulton. If you want to follow Josh on Twitter, it's at GT Josh Pastner.
I really appreciate these coaches, these guests that say things as silly as he just did. Call me anytime. We're going to. Don't know what to tell you.
So he thinks the pressure on the Duke players is going to do them in.
How about that? I mean, obviously, speaking glowingly of the ACC, talking about every team shot to win. Here they're going to do this. North Carolina's got 5 guys that can play with any 5 guys in the country. Duke's going to lose by the Sweet 16.
Right. At the
very least.
That they don't win 3 games in this tournament is what he's saying.
Crazy.
If they win 2 and get to the second week, that's where they go down, what have you. Well, the matchup I was looking forward to is Duke Davidson in the second round, because Coach K scheduled a lot of teams. He would not schedule Davidson for a long time. And so those kids, you and I remembered back in the day, Dean Smith scheduled just about everybody, wouldn't play what was then called UNC Charlotte. And in the second round one year, UNC Charlotte got the Tar Heels, and they played them to a 2-point game.
Davidson will play their hearts out if they can get there. Remember, Davidson, I think it's their point guard, is a grad transfer from Michigan State.
Right.
So it's not like he doesn't want to kick Sparty's ass today.
Miller and Moulton. Well, for those of you, Lake City, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice, thanks for listening today and this week. For those of you in the 239, the bonus hour is next. David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled marinated sirloin steak topped with provolone cheese, grilled onions, peppers, mushrooms, crispy bacon, juicy tomatoes, and creamy mayo. Boom! Made-to-order crispy fries can be paired with the Gator, the Cuban, the chicken bomb, or the Italian. Love local. Eat delicious with John Smith Subs. Find a John Smith Subs location near you today.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program
The Training Grove, with a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, the Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with the Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
3 winning records, 3 losing records. He's only been in the tournament once. It was last year they won the ACC tournament.
Hey, what was Pat Chambers' Twitter? Do you remember? It wasn't on the thing. That's why you said it when you interviewed him. I didn't think it was. Maybe it was. I can't find it when I look him up. Okay, it's not on the text either, which didn't matter. Got him. I got him.
Isn't it like HC? Pat
I
Chambers?
got him. Coach Chambers. Coach_Chambers. Oh, wow. Tim Reynolds wrote a big article. You see that yesterday?
About
The women.
The women and the whole seating thing.
I didn't realize he did that. That's awesome. He won't come on, will he?
No.
Because he covers the media? Is that his reason?
No, won't come on because he's had a couple of bad sports radio experiences.
Huh. That's too bad. Seems like a... It would have been a nice time to have him on at 9:10 this morning, 9:15 this morning, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I know. God, Bobby Riggs. Holy.
Did you see it? I took a golf cart ride. It's not helping.
Give me chaos today. I need it. I need something to believe in.
He put another one out I responded to. He said something to the effect of went for a golf cart. Oh, yeah. That was a reply. That wasn't a reply then. How was that not a reply? I delete it. Not the way I wanted to.
listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour of Miller and Moulton Friday edition, Florida Sports Network. Thanks so much for being with us. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when, all roughly 35 minutes away. Full slate of games once again, 16 more on the men's side. Women's tournament getting underway. FGCU, 2:30 this afternoon on ESPNU. For those of you interested. Line down to 5.5. They opened as a 7.5 point favorite.
Couldn't get it anywhere. Need legalized gambling in Florida now.
Do we ever?
Killing me.
Do we ever? All right, let's go back to this NFL thing. MK Burgess covers the Packers. WFRV Local 5 in Green Bay. Follow MK on Twitter, MK_Burgess, BURGESS. MK, it's David and Mark once again. How are you?
I'm good. Did something happen with the Packers yesterday?
We're wondering, MK, if you signed any type of deal to play receiver because they seem to be a little short.
Man, I was sitting there watching March Madness and my phone buzzed, and I thought it was going to be like they had gotten a deal done with Rasul Douglas. And instead, I'm sitting there for a moment looking at my phone, and it took my brain a minute to process, and I was like, oh, he's with the Raiders. Devontae Adams is with the Raiders. I probably had the same reaction that every fan of the Packers had, which was, what? Absolutely mind-blowing. But, I mean, at some point during the season, I'm guessing what ended up happening is that talks just deteriorated so badly during the season that I don't think it would have mattered if Rodgers had come back or not. I think that he wanted out regardless.
Well,
and now he gets to go play with his college quarterback.
Well, didn't you guys, wasn't there a late season game? I don't think it was after the playoff loss. I thought it was in December or maybe early January. Wasn't there a media session where you guys were asking him about his future and he basically said, paused and went, I don't want to say anything bad, but, I'll talk about this later.
If I'm remembering correctly, I believe that he was asked, would you take a pay cut in order for Rodgers to come back? And he was like, no. What profession is there where you don't get paid the money that you're owed for the performance that you have? And as I've said earlier, I don't know that there's any other wide receivers tape out there right now in the league that's better than his. So why shouldn't he get paid? Now, the interesting reports that have come out since that news broke is that the Packers offered him the same, if not more money to stay. And he said no.
Do you believe but
he said no.
But MK, do you believe that though? Because we all know that teams will give out information to CYA after losing a guy. I mean, if they were going to offer him this kind of money, they could have gotten this done. I mean, they could have gotten it done last year.
You could have gotten that. You could have gotten it done. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, I think it was about the money. But I also believe, and the reason I believe that to be true is because Ian Rappaport is rarely wrong now, and it was coming from his agent. So, who's to say whether or not? I mean, I'm going to go with that. I believe that to be true, but I very much am just, I could see it because you could see it in his body language every time he was asked about his future with the Packers and his future with what he saw happening. You could see it deteriorate as the season went on. You could just see that he wanted to talk about it less and less. And then there were rumors that he bought a house in Vegas over the summer, which was, random, but you were like, oh,
Okay. And then they franchise tagged him, which if you were going to offer him that money all along and you had found a reason to figure that out, why would you franchise tag him? Because it didn't seem like any other team was really trying to sign him, because you thought and knew that the Packers were going to get it done, especially with Rodgers coming back. I mean, that's his guy.
Well, MK, I'm curious
with all that.
I'm curious too, because obviously we know Rodgers had a problem with the front office. Now Devontae has a problem with the front office. How much discontent is there between players in Green Bay and the front office when the two best players both want to leave and cite the front office as the reason? I know one stayed, the other one left. I mean, this could point to a bigger problem, couldn't it, MK?
I don't know that there's a problem with the front office, because Brian Gutekunst is always really polite every time I'm in an interview session with him. I just think that Davante Adams wanted probably the same thing that Rodgers wanted, which is a little certain level of respect. And I also just think he wanted out. I think he wanted to go play with Derek. I'm hearing rumors that he's always wanted to go play with his college buddy. And, Carr started a decent year last year. And now he's going to a Raiders team that's slowly rebuilding, that, looked all right in the first round of the playoffs. But the Packers, the Raiders didn't even make it to the playoffs. They lost to the Chargers in that crazy game.
They beat the Chargers. They lost to the Bengals in the first round. You were right the first time.
They lost to the Bengals. Sorry, literally losing my mind with how crazy the NFL season was. So many different games. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't know. Am I surprised that he's gone? Yes. But if you look at it now that I've had a few hours to process it, I'm not surprised. Did I think he was ever going to leave? No. I thought they would get it done because they had until July 15th. But now Devontae gets what he wants. He's happy. He's highest paid. And the Packers got a first and a second round pick. That's not bad.
No, not bad. Not bad. Certain situations might have gotten a little more. Certain situations might have gotten a little less. I will say, Mark, there's a lot of pressure on the Badgers tonight. All right. Because obviously if you're a Badger fan, you're a Packer fan. And I don't think you can lose Davante Adams one day and have the Badgers lose as a 3 seed the next. I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure on the Badgers that they may not realize tonight. We're talking Packers with MK Burgess of Channel 5 in Green Bay. And she joins us once again here on Miller and Moulton. All right. Do you think with the 20 or so million that apparently Green Bay now has, and that's another thing, MK, I think when we talked to you 3-4 weeks ago, they had to shave off 45 million, and that's before keeping Aaron Rodgers. So now the Packers suddenly have 20 million and 2 firsts and 2 seconds to deal with. But do you think there's a free agent wide receiver that gets signed here before the month is done?
Yeah, I would believe that they would try to find a veteran wide receiver to come in. And I mean, early, someone I think the other day was floating out OBJ, but you don't know when his timetable return is, right? Because he just tore his ACL again, and you don't know when he'll be able to come back into the game. But I would expect them to make a hard run at a few wide receivers that are already in the league and already established in the league, because and who's to say now can you make a serious run at Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Because before, if you were going to keep Devontae, you didn't have the money to keep him, and now you do, and Rodgers trusts him. He's got that speed, and with him on your team, you now have that deep ball threat that you don't have if you don't have him. I think that was the biggest miss in that 49ers game, was that you couldn't chuck the ball downfield because he wasn't playing. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do. I'd be intrigued if they don't go after him, because he's a guy that Rodgers likes and trusts. So I'll be very interested.
Smith-Schuster, Smith-Schuster, Landry, OBJ. Which one of those do you think would best fit the Green Bay Packers roster?
I don't know. I personally would probably want Landry just because he stays a little bit healthier, right? But OBJ's got such good hands that it almost kind of reminds me a little bit of Tay, that I think either one. Now, I don't know. I have never predicted what Brian Gutekunst has done. I also, when he signed Rasul Douglas, was like, why? And then I ended up being an idiot for saying that. So, I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to end up kind of sitting here, twiddling my thumbs, waiting to see what he's going to do. But that's why he's a general manager of a NFL team, and I am not.
Also, Cole Beasley was released yesterday by the Bills. I mean, there are veteran wide receiver options that are out there, and Green Bay could go any number of ways. You know, they could save the speed receiver for one of the draft picks. 13 guys ran sub 4.45 at the combine, so it's not like they can't bring a wide receiver into the fold. MK, as always, we thank you for making time for us. We appreciate it. Say hi to your folks for us.
Oh, I will. Thanks, guys.
MK Burgess covers the Packers, Channel 5 in Green Bay. Follow her on Twitter, MK_Burgess, BURGESS.
You know, I think she's not only a little annoyed by what's happened, I think she's now, it's March, and I'm not sure, but it's like 35 degrees there right now. That's like the high. No, I mean, MK is one of those that starts every interview with us out by going,
the weather.
How's the weather down there?
Yeah,
and I think she's now so annoyed with Adams leaving, winter's still going on. Then you bring up the Badgers could lose. I don't know if that's who she roots for, but my goodness, she didn't even bring up the weather this time, David.
Colgate, tough 14. Of the 14s, most people said that was the best 14. So we'll see. I'm just saying a lot of pressure on Wisconsin. That's
Absolutely.
all. That they don't realize it. It's not something that they're taking into consideration. But most of their fan base is obviously not traveling with them. They're back in the 35-degree weather, which will be in the low 20s by tip-off. And I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure on the Badgers. They lost Devontae Adams last night. They can't go out in the first round of the tourney tonight. That's all.
Point taken.
A lot of subtle pressure.
Point taken.
I just realized during the break, our buddy Bobby Regan, diehard Kentucky fan.
I nearly texted him last night, and I said, I can't.
No.
When he texted out earlier this morning that I went for a golf cart ride to try to figure things out, and I'm still not doing any better. You can't fix it in a golf cart ride, David. I don't know how you fix it.
Right. He sent out another tweet moments ago saying, I'm rooting for chaos today because I desperately need it, if for no other reason than to maybe take my mind off of things.
Going to be a long off season for that guy.
Yes, it is. And here's the other thing. When you're the fan of a big boy team, this doesn't go away. You could have a great regular season next year. You can win the SEC. What are you thinking first round of the tournament next year? Oh, boy, here we go again. This can't happen to us again, can it? So, no, it doesn't go away for a while. And as Buried in Bourbon in our Twitch chat room says, nothing will shock me today after the Kentucky loss.
No doubt.
Last night. Miller and the Moulton. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap? Today was the day when. All coming up in roughly 20 minutes' time. Thanks for being with us, Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
And to KM and any other Bears fans out there, maybe it's because I'm a fan of a team that a long time ago moved from their legendary location and moved to a stadium in the suburbs, and it's worked out fine. I mean, to me, it's just how much more inconvenient is it going to be for fans?
Yeah, the only thing I don't know, does the L run to Arlington Heights? Can you take public transit out there? I don't know. I'm not a Chicago. Yeah,
it's near one of the two airports. It's my understanding.
I do not know the Chicago area very well.
Now, I know a lot of people do walk from, the extension of downtown there, and that they can walk from neighborhood bars and to Bears games. I get it. But all I've ever heard about is Bears fans hate Soldier Field. Hate it. So I don't know why there's all this angst towards them moving to Arlington Heights. Yeah, because plus, if you think about it, the Bears for the longest time played at Wrigley. Yeah, but my understanding, every Bears fan hated the redo of Soldier Field. It looks like a spaceship. It's also one of the smaller seating capacities in the league. If I owned the team, I'd move too, because I could sell an extra 10 to 20,000 tickets. It's a lot of coin. For 1 year, Canada relief, the Giants tried to go as the New Jersey Giants for 1 year. Do you know how much value comes off that franchise if you call it the New Jersey Giants?
Oh my God, Jimmy Traina put out a tweet because today's Rafts Day in the tournament. We didn't have, he put a tweet out from 2018. He said, I asked the legendary Bill Raftery if he's ever thought about joining Twitter. His outstanding response, no. And I'll tell you why. Because at 11:30 at night, when I've had my 10th drink, I'm liable to say something that will cost me my job. The Raft. God dang, that's funny. Maybe the worst response to a poll question we've ever had.
Yeah, I guess.
We've had 34 votes.
Dr. Mizuno, yeah, we pointed that out. And then Pat Kirwan last hour pointed it out.
That's basically, that's what everybody thinks now. This is done to Atlanta. Certainly seems that way.
Yeah, they played there while Yankee Stadium was being
redone.
Yeah. They took the pillars out. 74-75. They had to play in the Yale Bowl. I believe Giant Stadium opened in 76.
Yeah, I've never heard, and you're to Bears fan. Like I have friends that are big Bears fans. I've never heard of, they're Bears fans, but it's not a Soldier Field Bear. It's not like Lambeau, if you know what I mean.
Right. I haven't heard it either. When we go and, talk to.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Mark, Miller and Moulton is brought to you by Napa Auto Parts and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for, any of your vehicle. If it's a vehicle that needs a filter, they've got a filter for it. For you do-it-yourselfers out there, go to the store, buy online, Napa Filters. If you're in the 239, there's a good chance that the Napa Auto Parts is owned by John or Lisa, or run by Justin and Kyle. The Napa Dream Team, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, San Carlos Park, North Fort Myers, Punta Gorda. Stop on by, say hi, tell them Miller and Moulton sent you. Proud sponsors of the show, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. If you're Deshaun Watson and you've narrowed it down to Saints or Falcons, you're under contract for this year and 3 more after it. So 22, 23, 24, and 25. Where do you want to play?
It certainly seems like Atlanta's his answer.
Now, he's from Georgia.
No, I got you.
Played in the greater area.
With the whole Matt Ryan pushing the bonus back a couple of days, and you start reading between the lines here, it looks to me like Atlanta is going to be the choice.
Right, but that's not what I asked.
No,
you.
I know.
Right. If you're Deshaun Watson and winning, remember, he was frustrated by Houston being only so good, basically divisional round good, but never elite.
And if Sean Payton were the coach, I would answer New Orleans.
Okay, fair enough.
I would have answered Cleveland to this question, David. That was the answer I gave you earlier in the week. It would still be my answer. I think it's the best roster. I think it's the best chance to win. Now, what's fascinating is, and I know you're probably going to crucify me for it in just a second, because the NFC is a much easier road to win than the AFC.
Absolutely.
There is just no question.
Right. And seems as if it will be for basically that contract. Wouldn't you say? I mean, right now it looks a whole hell of a lot would have to happen for the balance of power to shift in the next 3 years.
Right. Absolutely. I'd probably pick New Orleans. The offensive weapons are better. The defense is good.
Defense is good.
And I don't know what Atlanta has right now that's good. And I'm not trying to be flippant here. Their defense is bad. Their offensive line is not good. And they don't have any weapons. They've got a tight end who could be elite at one point.
Nice weapon.
Yeah. Weapon.
Right. No, I know. Right.
The other weapon played parlays. He can't play football anymore.
Not for a year. Correct.
Now, I know you can go get receivers. I actually think it's not easy, but it's with the amount of talent there is, it's a gap that you can fill rather quickly. I would probably lean Saints. I think the organization's better, top to bottom.
To me, the Falcons are like a blank canvas. If you're Deshaun Watson, and he may choose them because it's near home and what have you. But here's the part about Atlanta that I find intriguing. The Saints are clearly better now. The Saints look as if they will be better for
the 3 years.
But Atlanta, it's funny, you will almost be going to a teardown. And I say it this way because I believe that Atlanta is going to have to give up a first and second this year and a first and second next year. So they're going to have a cap situation this year, taking on Deshaun, unloading a Matt Ryan. I mean, the Falcons' cap situation for this year and maybe even next year, there's no question I think you'll be more competitive in New Orleans.
Whose cap situation, by the way, David, is its own unique mess.
Right. but I think it would instantly become better than Atlanta's mess. So while he's under contract for 4 years, this year and 3 more, you got to figure the first 2 years of that, New Orleans would clearly be a better situation. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, a solid defense.
That seems to be enough right there to make them better.
You figure only 1 more year of Tom Brady. I mean,
Who the Saints beat anyhow.
Right. I mean, if I had to bet right now, if Deshaun were to go to the Saints, I would pick the Saints to win the 2023 NFC South.
Right.
Not this upcoming one, but the next one. I would pick them. But Atlanta, I think, becomes like a blank canvas. Deshaun can almost have influence even. Kind of like who it is I want to play with. Maybe some veterans that want to come and play with me. That's the part of Atlanta that I would find very intriguing. All right. He could get stuck in a really bad situation for the entire contract. They may never get good.
And history would support that point.
But in a sense, I think it becomes almost like a tear down to build up. And by 2024, they could run this thing.
Well, and look at, we all know what happened or didn't happen or what's alleged to have happened. Either city, he can rebuild himself by winning. We all know that. In Atlanta, they've really never had a face. Vic's been the only face of that franchise. Right? I mean, but if Matt Ryan would have won the Super Bowl, he would have been.
Wasn't his fault.
I understand that, but he's the face, but he's not the, I mean, come on, of the all-time face of the Atlanta Falcons, who would it be?
Hell, it could be Dion. And he was there like 3 years or 5, I think. But you're right. Matt Ryan was a good, solid face, but he never owned the town. Vic owned the town while he was there. I mean, those 5 years, Mike Vick owned Atlanta.
If Deshaun goes there and starts to win, the past will be slowly forgotten, maybe even quickly forgotten. He could own that town.
Oh, yes.
He'd never own New Orleans. Ever. That's Drew Brees' town.
Mm-hmm.
Today, tomorrow, 20 years from now. I'm right.
If he had gone to Carolina,
absolutely.
Cam's got a great legacy there.
Cam does.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, it's Mike Vick,
mm-hmm.
a guy who also got in trouble, and they still adore him in Atlanta.
Yes.
I would think that has to play some part in what he and his team are thinking.
Reportedly, he's asked for the weekend. I wonder if you really need that long, but he's asked for the weekend. Because of it, Matt Ryan, who was due a roster bonus today, the Falcons went to him and said, would it be okay if we pushed it back to, I believe the date that they agreed upon was Tuesday, in case Watson needs the weekend? One would think that Matt Ryan and his agent have already discussed with the Falcons hierarchy that, hey, I get it. I'm not dumb. I can do the math here. You get a guy 9-10 years younger and you're making a business decision. I respect that. Here's where I would like to go. And I'm
By the way, if you were Matt Ryan, would you put Seattle on that list?
Interesting. You would say that. That is interesting. I think I would go Indianapolis first.
I got you back to the whole NFC thing, and I know
Right.
that division's really good. So you're throwing them into the worst possible scenario as it being the best division right now in the conference.
By the way, if you're Matt Ryan, would you stay within the division? Now, the Falcons, I don't think would ever agree to send you to the Saints. They just hate him. No way. They'd say to him, Matt, we love you, not that much. Nope.
Yeah, I think it's Cleveland, Indianapolis, or Seattle. If I'm Matt Ryan.
The Seattle one's interesting.
Now, if you're right on Kirk Cousins, Minnesota could go into the mix as well.
Let me ask you this. If you were the Eagles and Atlanta offered up Matt Ryan and they were willing to accept something that is not one of your first-round picks, I mean, how married to Hurts are you? How much do you think you can win now in that division, in that conference? He's still arguably a top 5 quarterback in that conference, even if Deshaun is in Atlanta or New Orleans, if you know what I mean. If you go Rodgers 1, Deshaun 2, Stafford 3, and if you go Dak 4, it's either Cousins or Matt Ryan 5.
Not willing to Kyler Murray, are you?
No, I'm not. Not yet. No.
Sorry, I just having a little fun.
Just wondering if you're the Eagles. If you say, listen, we'd be interested, but I'm not giving you our first rounder. I'll give you a second.
Let me ask you this question. I know salaries and all the other things have to do with it. Just on the performance, Kirk Cousins or Matt Ryan, who would you want? If they're both available right now for 1 year. I mean, if you're Indianapolis, it's a 1 year at a time thing.
Indianapolis with that offensive line, Matt Ryan. For 1 year with a capable offensive line. That's why, like Seattle, no.
Exactly, no.
Okay, but Indianapolis, Matt Ryan. In a dome, that line, he can still chuck it. That line's terrible. Saw him twice last year. Terrible. Awful situation for him. He's a pocket passer. He needs a line.
And a running game. Indianapolis provides both.
Right. Now, I will say he will take a look at that wide receiving core and go, I haven't had a core this bad since Boston College, but okay.
I don't know. Last year, he had a tight end again. I mean, Ridley was gone most of the year. Jones was gone. Last year was not. I mean, last year, the line was bad. The receivers weren't much better. It was Gage. So.
Gage still better than anything I think Indy had, though. Pittman, Gage, interesting.
But the Pitts factor throws
Yes.
Atlanta over the top.
So just throwing that out there. If you were Deshaun Watson, who would you choose? Maybe that should have been our poll question.
We've done that question.
Miller and Moulton. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap today was the day one. Final thoughts going through the tournament. 16 games on the men's side. Women's side gets underway as well. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Hey, it's Mark Miller for the Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. Improve your golf game from home with Orange Whip Golf and Fitness online swing training program, The Training Grove. With a growing swing training video library and a daily program prescribed by golf fitness professionals, The Grove provides a clear path to unlock your most powerful swing, giving you control of your game like never before. Join thousands like me who have finally found a way to achieve results in half the time of traditional game improvement methods with The Grove's revolutionary blend of golf fitness, instruction, and award-winning Orange Whip products. Go to orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial and use code Miller10 to get $20 off your first month. That's orangewhipgolf.com to get started for a free 14-day risk-free trial. Remember to use code Miller10. That will get you $20 off your first month. The Training Grove by Orange Whip Golf, where golfers go to get better. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, so Julio is a free agent. What are the odds he just like revitalizes his career in Green Bay?
He looked very AJ Greenish last year, I thought. I thought he looked noticeably, he ain't Julio Jones anymore last year. And if he's going to look the way he did last year, I don't know if I'd sign him because I don't want to pay him that much money of what he's going to request.
True. Well, he
Now-
was battling through injuries.
No,
last
I
year.
understand, but he's been battling injuries for a while now.
Mhm. I mean,
Listen, it'd be Jarvis Landry for me. All right. He's
Yeah.
tough as shit.
yeah, I mean,
All right. He's really good. He can handle the elements because he handled Cleveland just fine.
he can pass the ball well.
Yeah. I mean, I would sign Jarvis Landry. Now, Robert Woods via trade is a very interesting proposition.
I would love to see Julio go somewhere. Like
He didn't
go
have
to
any
a
game
contender.
left.
That's what we were just talking about. How he did not look like Julio Jones last year. But imagine if he goes to like a contender and can look like Julio Jones again. That could be deadly. Because look, man, AB was old, but when AB was playing,
but AB was never hurt.
Right.
AB got in trouble.
Mhm.
AB wasn't hurt. Julio's now been hurt. He's been slowed down. AJ Green got hurt, got slowed down. I'm surprised. Did the Bengals, or excuse me, the Cardinals still have AJ Green, don't they?
He's a free agent.
Oh, they left free agent? Because he did not look good. Now, Canada Relief, I think you hit on something. If you're the Colts and you end up acquiring Matt Ryan, would you sign Julio? Yeah, I would. Yeah. Chemistry alone, I think he could help you with Matt.
Julio in a dome again.
Yeah, Julio's a number 3 right now, though. Or a 2. He's a 2 because he won't play the slot.
2 at best, yeah.
No, he's a 2 because he wouldn't play. I mean, did you see the story about that golf team that was all killed in the car crash? 13-year-old was driving.
Whoa.
13-year-old
It originally said it was a father and son.
Well, and it was.
It was, but the dad was letting the kid drive. He's 13.
Apparently, they think the front left tire blew. And that's why the vehicle immediately, sharply, just went in the direction that it went. That they had a spare tire on the front left side of the truck. It was an F-150, wasn't it? And that the tire blew. And that's why the vehicle careened in the direction that it did. But, of course, the question that I don't know if we'll ever get answered is, why was the 13-year-old driving? Like, I hope they did a blood alcohol on the dad. No, seriously.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just laughing at. I'm not laughing at that.
Right.
I'm laughing at an MMA fighter. It's my good as an MMA fighter. Somebody pulled a gun in a sushi restaurant. There happened to be an MMA fighter in the place.
Oh yeah, 2 of them, right?
Oh, you fool.
Well,
Yeah.
someone else was trying to wrestle the gun away, and this guy, Kevin Holland, was the only one. He ran over and choked him out. Sorry, that makes me smile.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"20 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for listening or watching, if you're doing so, on the Miller and Moulton Twitch.tv channel. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network. I say we get right to it, shall we?
I'm not afraid.
Leave it to the oldest guy in the show, and definitely the oldest soul to live in the past. Here's David Moulton with Today Was the Day When...
1852, 170 years ago today. Mark, it was a startup company. It really was. Henry Wells and William Fargo.
Nice little idea they had.
Right. Seems to be doing okay. 170 years later. Barnum and Bailey Circus debuted at Madison Square Garden 141 years ago today in 1881. Used to go to the circus every summer.
Did you?
Yep.
Never really liked the clowns all that much.
Loved the elephants.
Yeah?
Yep, I did.
I liked when I worked over at Hertz and we had the circus just to see the elephants and the tigers and that stuff. That was pretty cool.
You were okay with the smell that the circus would leave? It would last a little while?
I worked in Nashville's Municipal Auditorium. The basement was the parking garage. The basement was where they kept the animals for the week of the circus.
Right.
Our offices for the Nashville Nights were also in the basement.
Oh, my goodness.
After experience in Nashville, there was no circus that could touch me after that. It was immune to it after a couple of those circuses going through the Nashville Municipal Auditorium. What a dump that building was, too.
Mark, today's a big day for you and I and fans of hockey. 130 years ago today, Lord Stanley presents a Silver Challenge Cup for a hockey tournament. And yes, that became the Stanley Cup. 1940, Mussolini agrees to join Hitler in the war effort. That would not work out well for everyone involved. It was 80 years ago today that two black baseball players request a tryout with the Chicago White Sox. And the White Sox, to the surprise of many, agreed and allowed them to try out. Their names were Jackie Robinson and Nate Moreland. On this day in 1945, Rocket Richard, the first to ever score 50 goals in an NHL season. 1953, the National League, which had not allowed a franchise to move for 50 years, approved the Boston Braves' move to Milwaukee. They only lasted like 12 or so years in Milwaukee before going to Atlanta. And then Bud Selig, a used car salesman, said, "This is bull, and we need baseball back." And it took a few years, but he brought baseball back to Milwaukee. That's why he's revered there. 1959, the Hawaii Statehood Act was passed and Eisenhower signed it. Hawaii would not become a state till August, but the act was passed on this day in 1959. 1965, cosmonaut Alexei Leonov, the first ever to walk in space. He walked for 12 minutes in space. Leonov. My apologies. Alexei Leonov.
To all of the Leonovs.
Right.
To all of you who are listening right now.
But a cosmonaut, remember, we were losing the battle in space. We caught up quickly. Penny Lane from the Beatles goes number one on this day in 1967. The Clash release White Riot 45 years ago today in 77. 1981, the Sabres set a record of 9 goals in one period against the Maple Leafs. Wow. 82, the Teddy Pendergrass car accident that left him paralyzed. On this day in 1985, Peter Ueberroth reinstates Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle, who a year or so earlier
doing greeting at Walmart. I mean, a casino.
In Atlantic City, and Mays and Mantle would not quit the gig and would not give the money back. And Bowie Kuhn put them on the ineligible list, and one of the first things Ueberroth did was reinstate Mays and Mantle. 2002 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame mark, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, the Ramones, Talking Heads, Isaac Hayes, Brenda Lee, among those who got in. 8 years ago, Phil Jackson hired by the Knicks. That worked out well. And Russia formally annexed Crimea.
That's working out really well,
yeah,
too.
That's not working out well for anybody. 2 years ago today, the U.S.-Canada border was closed due to COVID. Have they opened it up?
Yes.
Not that long ago. John Updike, Wilson Pickett, Jay Berwanger, who won the first Heisman Trophy. Richie Ashburn, Gabe Brewer, Masters champion. Grover Cleveland, who was president twice. Charlie Pride and Peter Graves of Mission Impossible fame and airplane fame, all born on this day. Michael Reagan is 77. Joe Kapp is 83. Andy Reid is 64. Rick Meyer, Notre Dame quarterback, 52. Andre Bad Moon Risen's double nickel. And Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains is 56. Dane Cook is 50. Adam Levine, 43. Queen Latifah, 52. Vanessa Williams, 59. The answer is yes. And Mike Rowe, who voices Ford commercials and Deadliest Catch, is 60.
By the way, Queen Latifah, did anybody ever imagine she was going to become this megastar?
And
crossover,
right,
acting,
movies,
now she's
TV.
an action hero on a
Right.
television show, or been on an action hero, but she's the badass cop.
Right. She's the equalizer.
Right.
Yeah, my wife's all in. She loves the
she?
show. Yeah.
That's one I wouldn't have picked.
No. And she's got a lot of say in that show, as you would expect.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's not like she's seeing those scripts for the first time. And today was the day. I miss anything?
No.
All right.
Well done.
Thanks.
The Charlie Pride, Queen Latifah, Jerry Cantrell. I was very impressed with all of those.
Well, when I put Cantrell on the paper, I said I'm going to catch Mark with this one.
You did.
He's going to bet large amounts of money I'm going to miss Alice in Chains.
I thought you were. Saw Jerry Cantrell play at the stadium. It was 2 or 3 days after Lance Staley, the original lead singer of Alice in Chains, died. It was his first live show. And he played the stadium, the little hockey rink in downtown Fort Myers. Fabulous show. Fabulous show.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
So we go to Houston for the good and what could have been really an ugly. A man at a sushi restaurant fired a gun into the ceiling, looking to rob the place. The problem was not just the patrons in there. People started running, but one of the patrons was UFC fighter Kevin Holland, who used a chokehold to subdue a suspected gunman until police arrived. He said, "I heard a big bang. I thought it was the table behind me popping champagne because they were having a birthday. I realized quickly it wasn't champagne when I turned around to see people running and glass breaking. I grabbed the guy with the gun. We faced the gun down towards the ground. And I'm like, we're upstairs. That shouldn't be facing down. So we pointed towards the bar, face it up the air. I was able to hit the gunman's wrist. We were able to get the gun away from him. I pull him back, sit him on my lap, put him in a rear naked choke. Yeah, we choked him out." That is absolutely fantastic. Good for him. For the bad, we go right into our own backyard, David, right here in Estero. Turtle Source is the name of the place. Jeremy Wolford, 47-year-old, was spotted on footage taking 18 rare turtles. He was called by the owner to fix a refrigerator in the store. He fixed the refrigerator and stole thousands of dollars worth of rare turtles. Turtles have been recovered. 5 of the 18 have been recovered. He's now in jail on $50,000 bonds. And finally, the ugly, David. Something stinks in Spokane. And it's not Gonzaga.
Fish. It's not the fish.
It's not Gonzaga. A truck that was hauling a load of porta potties ended up flipping into a ditch on 9 Mile Road in Spokane County.
Oh, no.
They'd been spraying the road froze, the truck spun out, and the porta potties, may have littered the street a little bit.
May have. Right.
The smelly development, we will keep you posted. And that, David, is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, March the 18th, 2022.
All right. The women's madness begins at 11:30. The men's madness begins at 12:15. We'll start with the men. First game of the day, Loyola Chicago and Ohio State. To pick 'em.
I'm going to take the Buckeyes.
I'm going Loyola Chicago.
Money's moved that way. Ohio State started out as a slight favorite. I've actually got Loyola as a 1-point favorite at the moment.
USC, I've got them now as a 2.5-point favorite against the Canes. That one opened at USC -1.
I'll take the Fighting Enfields.
I will as well. I like their draw. They get Auburn in the second round.
I just think Miami's going to have trouble with the size.
Jacksonville State, Auburn. Auburn a 15.5-point favorite in that 2:15 matchup. Texas Tech also a 15.5-point favorite in their 3:14 matchup with Montana State.
Purdue a 16.5-point favorite over Yale. That's the 2:00 game. Nova 15.5 over Delaware. That's at 2:45.
Late afternoon, 6:11 matchups. Bama, Notre Dame. Bama favored by 4. Texas, Virginia Tech. Texas up to 1.5 points. I'll take Bama. I think Notre Dame, the whole travel and all that. But I like Virginia Tech over Texas.
I like both 11s for whatever reason. I just think Alabama will be cold and Notre Dame will ride a good game that they played 2 days ago. Early evening games, Illinois an 8-point favorite over Chattanooga. I think that's going to be a really exciting game. Duke 18.5 over Cal State Fullerton. And then you get to LSU 4 over Iowa State. And Arizona is a 21.5-point favorite over Wright State.
UAB, I think, has got a real shot against Houston in a 5-12. Cougars an 8.5-point favorite.
You picked them outright.
Their resume, I know, 29 wins in Sampson. They went to the Final Four last year. Remember, Rutgers had Houston beat in the second round last year and totally collapsed. Houston does not have a ton of quad 1 wins. And I know you may say UAB is not quad 1. I just think their 29 wins is a little soft.
Davidson and Sparty, it's a pick 'em.
I like Davidson. Sorry.
You're not hearing much out of me. I think the line's exactly right. See if Izzo can play the same disrespected card for his team and tell them that they're picked to lose against Davidson.
Biggest favorite today, points-wise, is Arizona, 21.5 in a 116 matchup against Wright State, who, remember, won a play-in game on Wednesday in their hometown of Dayton.
Wisconsin 7.5 over Colgate and Seton Hall a point over TCU. Both of those games will end tomorrow.
Right, because they start around 10 o'clock.
That's what they're scheduled to start, and they won't start at either of those. They'll be 15 minutes behind those times. These games never run on time.
First game of the day on the women's side, South Florida and Miami. Money must be coming in on South Florida. It's down to a pick 'em. I'm taking Miami. And 2:30, ESPNU, FGCU. Now a 5.5-point dog. They opened as a 7.5-point dog. FGCU, Vodtech. Vodtech has the ACC Player of the Year, which is saying something because NC State won the ACC and they're a 1 seed. But best player in the ACC is on Virginia Tech. I mean,
best player on the court plays for FGCU.
Maybe. This will be the closest competition as to who's actually better. So FGCU getting 5.5 if you can get it.
Yeah, and we liked them a lot better at 7.5.
Yes,
David has said, back up the truck on the Lady Canes today, laying a point against USF. I'm not saying it. David's saying it.
So there you have it. That's the madness. And by the way, there may be some spring training tickets available that are normally not available this time of year. Feel free to go to a website if you're so inclined.
Have a great weekend. Miller and Moulton. We'll talk Monday, 6 a.m. right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Bring your big mouth to John Smith Subs and indulge in their overstuffed subs with the freshest quality ingredients. Enjoy our famous steak bomb with perfectly grilled